Welcome everybody to the Jim Masters Show Live. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you're having a good start to your week. We are live worldwide, and it's a pleasure to have you here at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. We are here nightly, and this is our 22nd week, close to 150 episodes live every single day together, which is truly amazing. Hope everybody had a great weekend. We had a really busy weekend too. Yesterday we were with family and friends, which was really fantastic. Hope you guys had an opportunity to spend some time on the opportunity to spend time with family and friends is really terrific. And these days, a lot of people are doing it over the phone, or they're doing it over Zoom or other, technologies. But however you do it, make sure you do call a loved one and check in with them as well. This is our entertainment lifestyle talk show series that, again, we started 22 weeks ago. As many of you know, I do this work professionally in television, radio, as a host, personality, presenter, actor, journalist, writer, producer, voiceover artist, stage MC. I'm running out of titles, however, and sleep too. Good to have you with us. We've got an amazing guest today. Yes, you probably saw the pre-promotion that we've done on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and all the other usual suspect places. We have the incredible Andrew Mayne here on the show, and yes, he is an illusionist and a magician, but however, he's also a prolific novelist, a best-selling novelist of incredible books, lots of them too. You can really get lost in his incredible tales. He's also going to be telling us about some really cool new things that he's working on, industries and projects that he's engaged in as well. You may have seen him on A&E when he had his own television series. You may have seen him last year during Shark Week on Discovery. That's right, Swimming with the Sharks. We'll talk a little bit more about that. He's really cool. But also, you know what it is? His mind is always racing. He's such an inventor, too. He's always creating things and building things and trying to dissect and figure things out as well. And even before he started his own career, he was a consultant for some of the great magicians and illusionists, David Blaine, and he chatted with David Copperfield, who was a hero of his, of course. Another hero who's no longer with us, Doug Henning, too. We were just talking about the incredible Doug Henning just moments ago. He's live in Burbank, California, our very special guest, Andrew Mayne, and we'll talk with him in just a second. I always toast all of you, so we toast you and you and you and you. We hope you had a good weekend. Again, we had a great weekend. We've got an amazing week of guests coming up. Our show always has guests, so we toast all of you as well. Our show has guests who come from every field of endeavor you can think of, from celebrity friends in television and music and Hollywood, film, radio, sports, culinary arts, comedy, magic, inspiration, spirituality, whatever it is, we talk about it here because we're sort of bringing back the lost art of conversation on the Jim Masters Show Live. And again, sometimes I even find it hard to believe that we've done this for 22 weeks now, which is amazing, night after night. So we have an international audience. We have viewers from all across the United States, Canada, Mexico, even watching in Iceland, Ireland, Switzerland, Netherlands, South Africa, Australia, New Zealand. We are still waiting for a viewer from the Arctic Circle and Antarctica. So if you have any relatives, colleagues, or friends in the Arctic Circle or Antarctica, tell them that we're on the air. Let's greet some of our viewers. We like to welcome the viewers first from around the world, and this is a very viewer interactive show. If you have any questions during the show, feel free to post them on our YouTube channel as well as Facebook. We are live right now on YouTube at Jim Masters TV, Facebook at Jim Masters TV, Periscope, and Twitch at Jim Masters TV live right now. So we got pretty much all the bases covered with this episode. John Ways is watching. Good to see you, John. Welcome. You're going to be a guest on Thursday. You're a brilliant illusionist yourself and so much more. And he's excited, they're sort of kindred spirits, John and Andrew. Wow, Andrew Mayne, I remember getting your Gutbuster effect to perform freak magic as trick-or-treaters would approach my house years back. Pumped to see you tonight here on the show. Good to see you, John. Can't wait to have you as my guest on Thursday night. That's going to be cool. You're watching on the YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. Dante CD is watching in San Diego, California. Good to see you, Dante. Can't wait to see your magic. Good to see you, Christine Clifton in North Carolina. Good evening, Jim and Lovity friends. All the viewers call themselves Lovities. This is sort of like Lovity Hall because everything's positive and, good spirits here on the show. We welcome best-selling novelist, magician, A&E star, yes, Andrew Mayne, to the show tonight. Looking forward to an entertaining evening in Lovity Hall. Absolutely. Dante in San Diego here saying welcome to Lovity Hall, Lovities, friends and families. Hello, Mr. Lovity. Welcome, Andrew. You've now added him, like you do with all of our guests of all walks of life, into being officially a Lovity. And I'm sure Andrew's going to appreciate that and take that title to the bank as a Lovity. Good to see you, Dante, in San Diego. In the Netherlands, in Europe, hello, Lovities. Here is Holland. Hello, Jim. I enjoy you. Thank you very much. I'm glad you enjoyed the show there in Holland. Willie, I hope you had a good weekend. You're having a good day. Yes, there's her tulips for everybody. Mary Bishop is here. Hi, everyone. And Jim, good to see you, Mary. And Harriskin is here in Southern California. Hello, everyone. Hope you're all having a very blessed week. You too, Ann. Hope things are going well for you. Jennifer Barry in Allentown, Pennsylvania. She's wiggling on the couch. She likes our theme song in the beginning and the end, that catchy theme. So she's always jumping around on her couch to the Jim Masters Singers and Orchestra. Good to see you, Jennifer. I know you're going to be zen in just a second. Carla is here from Brazil, South America. As always, we love when you're with us, Carla. Hello, Jim and the gang. Really nice to see you, Carla. Hello to everybody watching in South America. Now we take you to the other side of the Atlantic. Hello to everybody in South Africa. Good to see you, Juanita, watching tonight on the Jim Masters Show Live. Welcome. Thanks for your nice note that you sent earlier today. I really appreciate that. I'll respond probably tomorrow. Good to see you, Juanita. Bernadette is here. Hello, Jim. Hope your family day was great. Hello, Lovities. Absolutely. Definitely was. And I hope you had a good weekend as well. Again, we're generally here every single day of the week, which is amazing. Did I really sign up for that every day? And then I balance this with my professional work as well, which is, I don't know. But hey, my guest Andrew is the same way. He's got his hands in this and this and this and this. It's just, if you love what you do, you're just going to do it, right? Crystal in Connecticut says, hi, Jim and everyone. Happy Monday. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Looking forward to an exciting show with great conversation and levity. Ann Wozniak, hi, Jim and Lovities. Looking forward to a magical evening. And I received that package that you sent. And I think over the weekend, I'm going to open that up live on the air and show everybody that box you sent with that special gift in it. Thank you very much. I think that was for the birthday a week ago. Ernestine Webb in North Carolina. Hi, Jim and Lovities. Good to see you. Kathy Short. Good evening, Jim and our Lovity family from Cleveland, Ohio. Happily got back to work today, one day closer to normal. So you've been out of work for a while and now you're back. That's terrific. Claudia in Missouri. Hello, everybody. That's great. Good to see you all again as well. Nice to see all of you. Fantastic, fantastic. I love to see all these different faces. And thank you, Willie. We had a wonderful time with the family. And Kathleen Walker. Hi, Jim. Hi, everyone. Hope all is well with you in New York City. Good to see you, Kathleen. And I hope you're doing well. And Canada is represented with Merlin. Hi, Jim and all the Lovities. You're watching on YouTube. Good to see you. You like the plaid? Oh, you mean the shirt? Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And let's see. Oh, Soraya is here. Hi, Jim. I hope you had a wonderful day off with the family, friends. Glad that you are here. We are here as well. And good evening, Ralph in Indiana. Good evening. What's on your mind? We shall find out. Hello. Everybody saying hello to everybody. Jen Miller is here. Hi, Jim. Good to see you. Marilyn in Wichita, Kansas. Hi, Jim and all Lovities. Anna Phelps, so excited for a terrific night. Good to see you, Anna. I love the show. I appreciate that as well. I know you've sent those comments before. Cheers to you as well. And everybody's saying hello to everybody. And nice, nice, nice. Hello, Jim. Cheers. You're having Italian ravioli and sauce and garlic knots. That's good to know. Eat well. Life is short. Eat well. And Mary and everybody here. Good stuff, good stuff. And more comments come in as we go along and people join us. So you guys are doing well. Cool stuff. Nice to see everybody here. And we welcome you. We have a great show in store and again, a great week of shows in store for you as well. I want to tell you about my amazing guest who's here on the show live. live and direct from sunny Burbank, California. Now, I'm sure you have seen this face before. You have either read his material, or maybe you've seen some of his illusions, his incredible magic, or other things that he's responsible for. He's a best-selling author, magician, inventor. He comes up with, I've been watching some of the videos too. I've known about him too. I was just telling him, I've watched his special on A&E. I saw the Discovery special as well, when he was with the sharks with this special suit that he created. We'll talk about that. So I'm very familiar with his work. I've read his several of his books. So it's a cool honor to have him here. He is a multi-best-selling author, a magician, inventor, consultant, entertainer. No one title really applies to Andrew. He began performing as a teenager aboard cruise ships at resorts too, and then became a consultant for other magicians, designing illusions. He also worked for famed magicians, Penn&Teller. Of course, everybody knows and loves Penn&Teller. He's written books on magic. He's also done incredible DVDs too, mentoring and showing others who are coming up in the world of magic how they can do certain tricks and certain cool illusions. He was host of his own television series on A&E. That's right, Don't Trust Andrew Mayne. And I tell you, it was really, really cool. And you can see that on YouTube and elsewhere as well. He surprised people by walking up to them and performing illusions before their eyes. Really cool stuff. When his interests turned to writing, it seems natural that his creativity would go in that direction of the thriller, adventure, mystery genres of novels. He's a brilliant novelist. Though he self-published his first novel, fortune and talent favored him, and within a short time he was discovered by mainstream publishers. Not an easy thing to do, to find a publisher that wants to do your work, but it came his way. They loved his material. He's now a best-selling novelist of 16 books and then some, with many more in the pipeline. And while some authors take years to complete each book, Andrew has the uncanny ability, I was just telling him this moments ago, to produce high-quality page-turners in record time. He's been nominated twice for Thriller Awards, and he's been an Edgar finalist as well, both prestigious honors in the thriller and mystery categories. Several book series have arisen from his works as well. The Jessica Blackwood series, which includes Angel Killer and The Name of the Devil, and Theo Cray series, which includes The Naturalist and Looking Glass, and he's just launched a new series whose first book is The Girl Beneath the Sea. Each series blends its own brand of mystery, science, a hint of magic, and lots of thrills as well. And in his spare time, he often hosts impromptu sessions on Twitter or Periscope, or talking to fellow writers about the creative writing process, answering their questions. But even though his career is primarily in writing now, he didn't let his roots of magic go, because he was featured in Discovery Channel's Shark Week special just last year, where he devised a way to incorporate an element of illusion while swimming with sharks. He invented apps for writers and is currently working in the areas of virtual reality and artificial intelligence as well. He's really a jack of all trades and a master of many. Live and direct from Burbank, California, my very special guest is Andrew Mayne. Let's welcome him right now. Hey, Andrew, good to have you with us, and welcome to the show, my friend.
Hey, thanks, Jim. Man, that was quite an intro there. I was just going to have you go on every talk I do and say, well, just do Jim explain it. Sounds much better hearing you say it.
I'll be your host and MC, your warm-up guy, right? I think you even do a lemonade stand on Sunday mornings, too, right on the corner.
Yeah, there's a point at which, and I'm sure you go through this, where by the time people get to the third or fourth thing you do, people are like, oh, can't hold a job.
That's right. That's true. So let's talk about, how you first got inspired. I mean, you mentioned to me earlier, born originally in Oregon, moved to South Florida. So you've really, seen different cultures, different weather, different everything. Tell us about some of those different inspirations in your life. I know Copperfield, Doug Henning, some of those you grew up watching and loved as well. But what about within the family? Was there anybody that was doing any of this? Your father in law enforcement, right? And you have a brother too?
Right. So actually, I was born in Alabama, but only lived there till I was 1. Then moved to Oregon because of my father, who was involved in in law enforcement or for the Treasury Department. So we'd move from period to
So you
period.
did a triangle: Alabama to Oregon to Florida.
Yeah, exactly. And then living in like Japan and other places too.
You had to change your wardrobe a lot, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah. So my dad, although he was in law enforcement, he always had this appreciation for entertainers and artists. You know, we had friends of the family that were, you know, I had like uncles that were just, you know, friends of the family, like that were writers and artists and stuff. So I grew up in a very nurturing environment where, you know, when my dad realized that when I loved science, my dad encouraged science. And then when he saw that I got into magic, my dad would, you know, go to the magic shop by where he worked, get a trick, bring it home, teach it to me, and then I would learn. And then when I wanted to build illusions, like if you know, the put a girl into the box and cut her in half, that kind of thing, my dad knew carpentry and he taught me how to do that. And so I 99% of what I'm able to do in life is because I just lucked out with having just supportive, loving parents that were there to nurture my idiotic urges to get into entertainment.
That is fantastic. So what were some of the first things that you recall that you did as a kid when it came to magic and illusion and things of that nature? Was it the card tricks? Was it did you have a magic set when you were 5? I had a magic set when I was 5. Used to entertain the family on Christmas Day.
Yeah, and then it goes into the closet, never to be removed again. But I remember like one of the first tricks my dad was a little trick where you change like a stack of nickels into dimes. And I never read the instructions. And so that was my problem as a kid. I was super impulsive. And so I did like the dimes to nickel trick or something, and it was horrible. But that was always sort of my problem. And you know, people, oh, it's clever, you found your own way. I'm like, no, I just didn't read the instructions, and I did it backwards. And so a lot of times was sort of my approach towards things. Sometimes I'd see a thing, and then I'd have to have the Andrew way, which most times was not better, was usually worse. But that taught me as a kid to be creative. And so as a kid, I started to try to play with magic and be creative about what I did. I would see somebody, you know, David Copperfield do an amazing illusion, and I'd be like, well, can I do that with a cardboard box instead? And so I like to sort of take classics and try to play with them and make them my own. Not having a lot of resources, you know, I had to be creative with it. And I think that helped me out later on, because when you go do a TV show and you've got to create 13 tricks per episode and your budget isn't as large as you think it would be, you know, but you work with some creative people and you figure out how to make stuff work and how it applies. So,
right, exactly. Yeah. So what were some of those first breaks, would you say, that you got early on where people were recognizing the talent that you had? Because it wasn't for you, it seemed like just, you know, performing the actual illusions or magic. You also liked dissecting it, breaking it down, and then having people really understand the mechanics of how all this happens.
So I would say a big moment for me was when I was a kid. Like, my idol is David Copperfield. Yeah. Like 100%. I loved magic, but I loved science and I loved technology. Had Elon Musk been around, I would have probably wanted to be Elon Musk, right? But David Copperfield's
you do look a little bit like him, actually, around the eye area.
The lack of sleep, perhaps. So when I was like 12 years old, I got to go see David Copperfield perform live. And you have to understand that as a kid, the one thing I lived for every year was the annual David Copperfield special. And like,
one year,
one year the local affiliate played like, you know, replayed like Elvis in Hawaii and whatever. And I was like devastated. Well, when I saw him perform live, it blew my mind. I could not believe it was the first time I ever saw a famous, maybe I saw like some Olympian or somebody in like a supermarket, you know, like signing autographs. And I think Darth Vader when I was a kid. But it was the first time I ever saw a famous person was in the same arena, same, you know, showroom as somebody, and seeing David Copperfield perform live, getting his autograph afterwards. I could not go to school the next day because my head was oh yeah. In fact, I even got on my bicycle and I rode down to the theater where he performed at just to stand in the parking lot and stare at the trucks and everything. I never told my parents that. They would have been horrified to know, because I'm like, was it real? Was it really there? And that's when I decided I was going to be a magician. Forget science, forget all of that other stuff for that time. I was just hooked on that.
Did you ever tell Copperfield that story?
I probably, I mean, he's used to people telling him like, oh, you're my inspiration or whatever like that.
But
so
you actually went into it too, and you know, you pursued it, which was amazing.
Oh yeah, it was funny because like a few years later, you know, 6 years later, I was working as a production assistant on one of his TV specials. You know, that was because I saw that and I said, I want to be in this world. I want to, and I learned, I had to figure out how to get in that world, and I figured out like maybe I could create magic. And so that's what I started doing as I became a magic creator, and I wanted to sort of try to be involved in that world. And then one thing led to another, and I was a production assistant, so I had to do anything creative on a special other than like figure out a better route to Burger King. But to be able to see him work up close, to see how hard he worked, I'm like, this is not for me. This is like real work.
Yeah, it's really, it's really incredible. So you had an opportunity then to really, I mean, some of these people were your mentors. Another one, Doug Henny, who we lost to early, but we used to watch his specials as well, and they're just really absolutely amazing. He was another one for you that was sort of like a mentor and just growing up.
I never got to meet him, but you know, as a kid, I saw his specials, and then I kind of got really into kind of the David Copperfield world of things. But as I got a little older, I looked back at how much Doug Henny changed magic for TV, and my appreciation became profound. And then I got to be friends with people who worked with Doug and knew Doug, and I, get interesting stories. And talking to David about Doug, it was very interesting. So, he's one of these people that sadly, there's an entire generation out there that would have loved this guy, and what his approach towards magic was and making people feel good. And it's, as I say, like if there was any time now that the world could use Doug Henny, it would be right now.
Absolutely. Did you love Houdini as well?
Oh yeah. Houdini. There's some magicians will get technical, be like, oh, technically he wasn't that good or whatever. I'm like, one, his escape artistry was fantastic. And there's a reason that we're in the year 2020 and we're talking about a guy who died in 1926. He died in 1926. Yeah. We're 6 years away from him having been dead for 100 years. Try to name another artist that had peaked by then. And, it's a very short list. And the fact that Houdini is a name we know today, you can watch Nickelodeon and you'll see kids make Houdini references. Everybody is aware of who this guy was. That's because he understood all the elements of show business, from the performance to outside to everything. And then, Houdini, I respect, was he got interested in spiritualism because when he lost his mother, he wanted to find out, was there something to this? And he kind of went in to explore this with a very open mind, and then found out that it was filled with all these deceivers and frauds that were taking advantage of people's faith. And Houdini was very outspoken about that. Houdini went out and talked and criticized this at a point when maybe he could have focused entirely on his career. Yeah. But he was very concerned about people being, taken advantage of. And I respect that. I really respect, because he took his own knowledge set and applied it to this other area in, I think, a meaningful way.
That's really cool. And that's true. When you have an opportunity to do that and you do it in a meaningful way, that's what it's all about. And you've done that too, because you've really, you've had an opportunity to work with some of the best and actually advise some of them, like a David Blaine. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I would say that was sort of a fortunate thing, was that as I became, more involved in magic and creating, and was being able to go work with people like, Penn&Teller, or, getting, called up by David Blaine and saying, hey, what ideas do you have and whatnot. And I would say that that's one of the things that's sort of not talked about a lot, but magic today can be very collaborative, in that there's some really clever people who work behind the scenes that when I've had to go do stuff for TV and stuff, I call up a few people like, hey, you want to work with me on this? And a lot of them go from show to show. And, but Blaine is just an interesting sort of person just to sort of watch the trajectory. Cause David Copperfield was a phenomenon before I was aware of magic. Same with, everybody else like Penn&Teller, but David Blaine was to watch a guy come out and start and reach the level that he has. It's been phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to go back a little bit here and show them some of the you in action. One is the Origami Effect. We have that video here. That's a cool one too. We're going to take a look at that, and then we'll be back and we'll chat some more. Enjoy this, folks. It's real quick. So make sure you look closely. Here we go. We've got another one I want to show them quickly. It's called The Key, too, which is kind of cool. Show them that. Take a look, everybody. That's quite cool.
Yeah, for context.
Are you ever mesmerized with by yourself when you see it again? Like, that actually was pretty cool.
Well, it's funny because like those a lot, you could tell, like I was a lot younger then. Those are videos, like, so a lot, just for context for people, I created a lot of videos that were teaching videos for other magicians. It used to be sold on DVDs. And so those would be like the teaser trailers to get other magicians to go, oh, I want to get this. And that's why they're like so edited and stuff too, because it's like, just show a little bit. You know, whereas if it were a TV special, you wouldn't cut away or anything like that. So if anybody cries foul, you're right. That's not fair. But then with the magic community, the magicians would review it. Oh, I love this. This is horrible, whatever. But yeah, like I've watched videos of like when I was younger, and I would like, and I didn't have a girlfriend, and I spent a lot of time practicing. And I go, how did I do that? And
there's a line in there somewhere.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, you do sort of go like, because I'm watching this like some of those are like 10 years old, and I'm like, yeah, I think I remember that. I remember.
That's cool stuff. Yeah,
I think I remember how that works.
Well, we've got another one here: the inside-outside balloon inversion. Let's take a look at that.
I have a funny story about that.
Excellent. So is it an innie or an outie? The answer is yes.
Yes. I was at like Taco Bell one day, and I was thinking about, like, there's a category of magic called impossible objects, things that shouldn't exist, or, you know, that defy, you know, how they work or whatever. And I was thinking about, like, you know, I was thinking about balloons, and like balloons are great. Everybody knows what a balloon is. If you can do a magic trick with something people recognize, it's great. And I thought, what if I could put the knot of a balloon, take it from the outside and put it on the inside? I said, that would be really cool because it's a very neat sort of idea. I'm like, this is great. I had no idea how I was going to do it. And then I had to figure out how to do it. And I had elaborate ideas and very complicated ideas. And I just started playing with balloons for like a day. I just started playing on the balloons and trying different stuff. And I was sitting on the toilet when I was playing with the balloon.
Not when you filmed that, right?
No, God, no. It's my muse. You know, it's like I'm Lyndon Johnson. It's where I have my best ideas.
Most people do.
It was literally, you don't know. You can be in the shower or whatever. You can have an idea. And I'm like, how would I make this work? And then it hit me. And so it's not the most flattering eureka moment, but I wanted to be honest for people who were talking about creativity. Like, yeah, if you take the idea with you everywhere and think about it, whether you're trying to tell a story, create a story, like that was like, I took the balloon with me everywhere, took it everywhere, and then figured it out.
What about the other one we saw, the Origami Effect? Tell us about that. That was cool too.
Origami is one of those things that it's lovely. Origami by itself is beautiful, and you just see something that's created, a piece of paper created out of nothing. And the first time I ever saw origami was when I was in grade school. We had a girl who was a foreign exchange student. She was actually, I believe, from Cambodia, and she didn't speak English yet, but they mainstreamed her because that was a faster way for a lot of kids to learn, is actually put them with their kids. And our teacher wanted her to have a way to communicate with us. And she was a sweet girl, but very quiet. You got to as a kid, you couldn't understand what she went through coming from Cambodia. Because she came, this was a long time ago when there was a lot of strife there, and into our classroom around a bunch of people who speak a different language. And the teacher wanted her to be able to share something, and she brought in origami one day, and we watched her just take the paper and fold it into the most beautiful things you could see. And that was all of a sudden, she was more than just the quiet girl. She was a girl that had, an incredible talent. And so thinking about that, later on, about the beauty of being able to take something that's simple, like just a piece of paper, and turn it into something that, has structure and has meaning. And so that was like that. I thought about like that for years later when I was thinking about, I remember that experience as a kid and how magical that was. Somebody asks a couple of questions here too, and feel free to shoot questions, folks. Have you met Chris Angel? Oh yeah, I know Chris. I had I ran a magic news blog. Somebody ran it for me, but I had a magic news blog for years, and we used to cover magic from time to time. And, and I was aware of Chris early on. We had some of the same people who were influences on us, and, watching his success was inspiring, because that guy works crazy hard, crazy hard. So, it was just sort of neat, because sometimes people got into this idea like, oh, there can only be one person at a time. Well, you had Doug Henny, and then David Copperfield kind of really ascended sort of after Doug sort of, pulled himself away from the magic scene a bit. But then you had David Blaine come about, who was just changed everything. And then Chris Angel came along and put to do magic on a weekly TV series at the time. Nobody thought it could be done. Right. So incredibly hardworking guy. Willie's in the Netherlands, in Holland. She asks, do you know Hans Klok, a Dutch man? He now has a show in Vegas. I don't know Hans personally, but Hans if you want to talk about charisma on stage and performance, that is Hans Klok. Like Hans, he moves 1,000 miles an hour. He looks like he stepped off the cover of like some romance novel, sort of like, hero type guy. And he did a show for a while where it was him and like Pamela Anderson. Yeah. Of all the tricks that you've done, was there ever one that's been a favorite of yours? One that you just really always enjoyed doing? So this is the weird thing about me. Even though I became an entertainer, I am really awkward when I have attention directed at me. That is the funny thing, is that
Isn't that funny how that works?
Yeah, it's like, hey, everybody, look over here. Yeah, right. So I would say that sometimes it can be a small thing. If, like, let's say you're performing for a group or at a party or friends, or there's the shy kid, or maybe the grandmother who doesn't get much attention. It's the person that's sort of like that. If I can create an experience or an opportunity where they can be the focus and they can see them do something. I used to go with a group of sketch comedians. We used to go to children's hospitals, and you'd sometimes go to places where you had kids who were dealing with like really serious issues. That's a beautiful thing. Yeah, you do the magic, but then the best part was to actually teach a kid. Like, you teach a kid who's in a hospital their whole day, living in a hospital, who gets poked and prodded all day long and who feels very powerless. If you can teach them a magic trick and they can go perform that for somebody else, and that kid all of a sudden is empowered, that's the most amazing. And to sit in the back and watch a kid do this and to fool their doctors, that's the most amazing thing in the world, because then you're like, okay, what a gift that is.
So you mentioned, you know, obviously an entertainer, prolific, best-selling novelist too. We'll talk about that in just a second. But, you know, being an entertainer, you have to be out there, but it wasn't something that you felt came necessarily naturally. You always said, okay, you got the camera on me, but look that way, right? So basically you are the shrinker, and I have proof. Here we go.
Hi, I'm Andrew Mayne, and this is my newest illusion. I call it Shrinker. Coming soon. I'm the leprechaun.
Merlin in Canada,
punchy.
She wants to know, can you fix her internet from where you are in Burbank?
Yeah, I'm a phony. Unfortunately, I can't do any real value. That was an effect that came about because of and actually works better in reverse. Like, it actually works better because you can walk out and look like a little person, and audience, oh, a little person's going to perform. Then you get tall, and they're like, no, bring back the little person. Yeah, like that was like, I remember like we were shooting that the videos for that late one night, and then I just had this line, like I remember the movie The Leprechaun, and I just threw that in there, and like 12-year-olds thought that was amazing.
It was cool. I want to show this too. This is really cool, and before we say what it is, because we'll show the audience, the viewers, and thanks everybody for these great comments around the world and joining us tonight. Special guest Andrew Mayne. Ghost Ink, is that something you created?
So,
or should we show it first and then?
Yeah,
we'll show it first. It's really cool. He's amazing, folks, and he's also a best-selling novelist. We'll talk about that in just a second. Here we go. Look closely. Look closely.
I have an honest-to-goodness freaky magic tattoo on my arm that predicts the future. It was put there by a gypsy. I can't really prove that, but let me show you how it works. I'm going to flip through these cards, and I want you to say stop whenever you want. Since you're not really here, I'll stop for you. Take a look at your card. The 3 of clubs. This is the really spooky part. This is the part that's going to blow your mind. I'm going to show you my tattoo. Prepare yourselves. Are you ready? I know what you're saying. There's nothing there. But remember, it's a freaky magic tattoo. Check this out. Just like that, the prediction becomes true. Okay, I know what you're saying. It's not really a tattoo. It's magic marker, but it's a magic marker.
cool, you know, when you really see that, you know, for anybody that doesn't do illusion or magic, it's amazing just to even see that and seeing you doing it. And, you know, I know you say that the limelight, you know, should go in the other direction. You're really good. You have an ability, and just in watching you when you had the special on A&E, the series of episodes, and just in these short videos, you do have a certain comedic timing, yet, and there's a calmness to what you're doing as well, which is, you're not hyper, you're calm, which I think is also an extra added skill. Not only is what you're doing, the act you're performing, you know, incredible, but also it's the presentation. There's comedic timing, and there's this calmness, which the Hennings and the Copperfields and all these others have always had. So I think personality-wise, it's there as well.
Well, thank you. That's very kind. You had asked before, so there's an old trick where like a magician would like use ashes and make things appear on their arm. And that's like, I had to see this thing because I created a lot of magic. So I had to remember like, wait, which trick was this? And I always try to find new ways. So, and again, these were videos that were like to kind of show magicians like, hey, here's a trick you can buy. And so if you were performing, you would only do one thing. You don't need to like prove it with 20. Cause at that point you might go, I think I know how this works now. It's, you know, what I always try to do is find a different way to do stuff and find a different approach towards it. But the thing about my style was I performed, I started right out of high school. I mean, in high school, I performed like with a circus, and then I worked in ships, and then I worked in resorts. Yeah. I lived in Japan. I performed very intensely for several years. And then when I got to be about 22, 23, I got bored. I got burnt out. And I was at that point when I had offers to go back to casinos and keep playing in places, but I'm like, I need to do something different. So I got out of magic. I still created magic, but I got out of performing, and I came back into it about 7 years later or so, because I got pulled into it by some friends that were doing sketch comedy down in South Beach, Miami. And they said, we'd love for you to go open up and do something in the beginning. I'm like, can I just do whatever I want and not have to think of like a cruise ship show or a casino show? They're like, yeah. And so I would do 20 minutes. And maybe I'd do 2 or 3 real tricks, and the rest of it was just goofing off and interact with the audience and, you know, having fun. And it was the most, I loved it. And actually the first time I ever did anything on video was a year or so later. I made a magic video for magicians. It was called Magic for Mutants. And that was the first time I'm like, I'm just going to be me. I'm not going to be the guy that's worried about like, what does the cruise director think or whatever else. And that's when the goofy side and not giving, you know, too much concern about trying to look cool came across. And that's when I had the most fun.
Yeah, when you were authentically yourself, and you were just more concentrated on the task at hand and what you wanted to do and how you wanted people to respond and react, which I think is awesome. And
I am naturally, you know, a ham, so that will come through where you know, those things will come up. So that was part of like, yeah, I do like to be every now and then like, hey, everybody look at me, but then just like have fun. Like when I stopped taking myself too seriously was when I had the most fun.
It's better to be the ham than the cheese.
Yes.
Do you have anything you want to show us with those cards at all?
Oh, that was it. That's really, I'm so out of practice here. All I can do is just flourish cards over and over and over. I mean, what's great about videos, which you can't, I can say like, Jim, say stop at any point.
Let's see. Stop right now.
Perfect. Okay. It's great. 7 of hearts. The video.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Jeez, look at that. Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, the beauty of videos, I can just see the card when you see it too. You know,
just have that monitor out front.
So.
Yeah, but the way you're fondling the cards, most people can't even do that.
I prefer the word handle the cards. Well, that's, you start to play with them and you practice over years and you just sort of get used to it and like the right way to do, you know, a fan and stuff. And I don't know if this is going to work here, but this is the worst angle to do stuff.
But awesome. I mean,
a little out of practice, a little rusty here.
Doesn't work with carpal tunnel syndrome, would it?
Gosh, no. Now you got me worried.
Yeah. So when you were doing, Mary had asked, did you just do it for fun on cruise ships, venues? I mean, that you were with Norwegian Cruise Lines and many others, and that was you did that for a long time, right?
Well, I did it for over a period of like 4 or 5 years is when I did that. And then I went from ships and then to resorts.
And for some people, that's a lot. I mean, out on the ocean, on the seas, 4 or 5 years. Yeah.
I mean, I went straight from high school. I lied about my age because like I knew nobody was going to hire like an 18-year-old kid to star in a show on a cruise ship. So I got out of high school. I told people I was like 23 or 22 or whatever, because it sounded more mature, you know. And then and that was like, if you know me, people know like I'm not a guy. The magician says he doesn't lie, but I'm like, if you know me, people are like, yeah, no, Andrew just. For me to be able to do that, but like, wow, I'm like, I wanted to be on there. I wanted to go out there and do it. So I kind of, that's how I got my start, was like, oh, yeah, I'm 22, you know?
Did you ever think of going into comedy?
Oh God, I couldn't. If I tried to tell a joke, it would fall so flat. I'm one of these people that if I think about it, it won't work. So
that's what it is. You got to just let it, if you really analyze it and break it out, because then it becomes nothing like, I mean, if you really dwell on it too much, dwell on anything too much, it just can be really taxing on the brain. If anything, it could really give you extreme brain damage. I love your reactions when you're watching them. It was cool. And I also want to know where you got that Color Bars T-shirt. I love that, being a TV guy myself.
Yeah, I think it's at a Target or something. So tell you what's funny too with like creating something is like I would have an idea, I'd play with it for a while. If it was a close-up trick, I'd maybe like I'd go to like, you know, I'd go to like the restaurant where I always go to and do it on the bartender, do it with people around there and test it out and then share it. And then with Matt illusion stuff, it might be something that had been in my show, but I never had a lot of feedback from other people. And then I'd show it to other magicians and other people out there. And one of my favorite things that happens though is like I'll put something out there, then somebody else will take it and make it even better. That trick, there's a magician by the name of Ed Alonzo, who a great magician, really, really talented guy. He took that and he turned it into something even kind of more. He figured out like, oh, the really cool part is like the umbrellas coming out. He's got a very special version he did of that. I have another effect that I had. There was a magician, Cyril Takayama, who's like huge in Asia, just amazing. And he took one of my effects and did a couple, tweaked one thing about it, and it was amazing. And I'm like, I never would have thought of that. And so I love when I see people take a thing, twist it, and then turn it into something even more incredible.
It really is cool. It really is. Juanita said, Cool and terrifying. They feel for you.
Yeah. Why do I do these horrible things?
Yeah, he did that to take care of his headaches, not to create headaches. Really cool stuff. It really is. And again, you know, the A&E special, you went even further with everything. But we got another clip here, which is photosynthesis, and this was cool as well. We'll show that. We'll come back and touch upon that one as well, and then we'll start talking also about your A&E special and the novels too. This is photosynthesis, folks. Here we go.
We're here with Kelly, and we're going to try an experiment in thought projection.
Okay.
Are you ready, Kelly?
Yes.
So I want you just to say stop at any point.
Stop.
Anywhere you want. Anywhere. Take a card.
Oh,
Look at a
take
card.
it.
Now, that was cool too to see that, you know, in that quick clip like that. Tell us a little bit about that.
So I love Polaroids. Like, Polaroids by themselves are magical, and I thought, how cool would it be to like have and magicians have used them for years, so I'm not the first at all, but like I wanted to do a revelation. And then that was actually a technical thing. Like, I figured out, because I had a lot of free time, I figured out kind of like a way to sort of make a thing reveal itself like this, sort of an application for some other material. And so there was a whole technical thing to this. And so long story short, I had to make those. There was a special Polaroids. I had to make them, but it could be any card, any signature in there. I had to make them. And I remember it was like 2 a.m. and I'm like in my shorts. It's Florida. I'm downstairs in my kitchen or my living room, which is no longer a living room. I've got tables set up and I've got all these concoctions working in the laboratory to make these things. And I'm like, this is a lot of work for a stupid magic trick. You know, this is a lot of work. Like, I've wasted my life. Like there's somebody working at SpaceX right now in a similar thing that is like doing amazing things, and I'm trying to make playing cards with signatures. That was really the thing that kind of broke me. That was that thing, because then I had a company that reached out to me because like, oh, we want to get this material. Could we do it in bulk? We want to make a deal. And I'm like, like not for magic, for something else. I'm like, I need to rethink my priorities here.
But by sticking with it, things did happen.
Yes.
An actual television series on A&E. Tell us about how this opportunity came for you, which I know, you know, you were pinching yourself as it happened. It's really cool, and I've seen it in re-air as well, and I think you can see clips on YouTube and everything, but it was really, really good, and I just love that walking up off this, you know, street corner type thing, and people are just amazed by what you're doing so instantly. How did all of this come your way, Andrew?
So years ago, I came to LA because I wanted to do actually an educational show. I wanted to do a show that was going to like teach critical thinking, magic, and science and stuff. That was the reason I got entertainment and TV at all, was to do that. And I had my partner, Mary Jarris, who worked with me on, and I went to Orlando. I didn't know anybody in the business, so I got an office in Universal Studios in Orlando, so I could tell people as a production company and then meet other producers. Through there, I worked with a production company. I met my producing partner, Mary Jarris, so I still work with us to this day. And then we pitched shows for a while. Like I did a pilot for MTV, and then we had another project that was not magic based. It was like a cool, weird game show concept. And we got paired with another group of producers, Joke and Biagio. They have Joke Productions. They still produce great stuff today. I became very good friends with Joke and Biagio. And then we tried working with them on different projects. And I even got, you know, I did a pilot for another network. And I'm like, oh, Joke and Biagio should be the producers on it. And they're like, no, we want to work with these other producers. And that happened like twice. I kept trying to get them on board as producers for a show with me and with Mary. And then one day they get a call from A&E who they'd worked with, and A&E is like, yeah, we thought about doing a magic thing. Do you have anybody in mind? Like, we know Andrew Mayne, and that person at A&E had already heard of me because somebody else had pitched me somewhere else. And then I get a call from Joke and Biagio who are like, hey, do you still want to do magic on TV? And I had to think about it for, you know, a second, because I'd been doing some others. I'm like, yeah, that'd be cool. And usually these things never amount to anything, but I wanted to work with them. And so Mary Jarris, Joke and Biagio, and I, we went and met with A&E. We pitched them the idea for this. And the idea was, it wasn't just pulling pranks on people. It was like teaching lessons and helping people get revenge. So if a wife had a problem with her husband, like maybe broke his promise about his motorcycle, I would put the motorcycle inside of a giant helium balloon, float it in the air, and blow it up. You know, all kinds of like helping people, relationships, and helping people kind of get revenge was the premise. So it was one of those, just you keep trying for a couple years to sort of get everything lined up, and then all of a sudden it works out. And you know, I was very, very lucky.
Now, I would have imagined too that, and this was too, you had something with history as well, right?
Well, so what happens is because A&E owns several networks, so in different parts of the world, so it might be on History Channel in some places, it might be on Lifetime or what have you.
Right. That's cool. That's cool. Did your world change, you know, once that aired on A&E and History and these other networks that they have? What was happening, you know, in your life then? Was the phone ringing? Were people pitching Vegas and all these other different things? What happened?
So, yeah, I mean, what happens is that, like, when you get a network like A&E, which, like, they hired the same DP who worked on, like, Batman versus Superman to shoot the commercials for the show, right? So when you get that much attention for a while on stuff, other people go, oh, what about this? What about that? And it's not like, and the thing I knew was, it's not like you go do this the next day, you get mobbed or anybody knows who you are. Although, like, I would go to Disneyland and people, oh, I got your autograph while the commercials are airing or whatever. And I knew, like, a year or two later, nobody will care, you know, and it's fine with me. But you get stuff that come up. Like I got a call right as soon as it started airing. I got asked if I wanted to go do a big tour in Asia, because they'd had, like, David Blaine did a tour there and it was really well. And because I was on TV, like, do you want to go do this? And I had to say no, because it was like, I knew I could not pull that off in that amount of time. And I could do a tour, but it would have been the best thing I could have done. And so there are things that come up where it was more like, I'm going to have to say no, because I don't just want to just do it because it's in front of me right now. And so, you know, other people are like, why would you do? I'm like, I want to have fun, and I want to know that I'm going to do a good job. And so, and then after that show, it was fun, but I'm like, I did this, and I don't like, I knew since I was a teenager and I worked for David Copperfield that I did not want to be standing on the stage of some big showroom in Vegas at 9 p.m. every Tuesday night and have to say the same lines. Like, that wasn't for me. And even though I went on and, like, I would go to Japan, I'd be in a casino there. I would be there 6 months and do 500 shows. And I said, okay, I've seen what that world's like. I like novelty. So,
yes. You know. Did you feel sort of claustrophobic? You'd be boxed in, sort of, because then it becomes assembly line-like a little bit, and you wanted freedom of being able to do what you want as you're being creative.
It's a very comfy box, to be clear. You know, there's like, I remember we went to go shoot a commercial for one of them, and they're like, oh, and here's your RV, and they'll take you to the other location when you need it or whatever. And I'm like, that's funny and cool, but this is not for me. Like, there's that weird feeling where you're standing there and you're talking to a producer, and all of a sudden there's an umbrella over you and somebody puts a Diet Coke in your hand. And I'm like, this is not me. I don't crave this. I don't need this. Like, and also, like, you could say, like, you could make the dumbest joke and people laugh because you're the talent, and you realize that's how you become a horrible person, because nobody tells you, no, that was really dumb. Why would you say that? And so, it just sort of shapes sort of where you want to go and what you want to do. And so I liked it. I enjoyed it. It was fun, but I didn't crave it. And so the first time, I really tried to pitch anything seriously for me being in it was really the Shark Week thing. Cause that was like, I wanted to do this cool thing. I had this idea for something fun, but I had that experience. And then you get this, cause like Jim, like you had like, oh, I want to go, then you get it. You're like, okay, now it's a job.
Yeah,
I don't have to see my face on TV. I just want to be in a position where I can create.
Exactly. And that Shark Week thing is really cool. That's where the Discovery Networks approach you, because you had created this incredible, like, stealth-like suit where the sharks didn't recognize you or couldn't see you. Tell us about that. Here it is here.
So for years, I thought if I was going to do something cool, I wanted to do something that for me would be really, really interesting. And you always want to, in magic, you try to play with things that people understand and are iconic. And great white sharks, everybody knows what a great white shark is. They're amazing, they're ferocious, what have you. And years ago, I thought about the idea of trying to do something magic directly involving great whites. And I had Discovery Channel to actually talk to me at one point years before about doing something, and we had an exploratory budget, and I worked with a production company that sort of, we couldn't kind of come up with the right sort of pitch for that. And then about a year or so ago I was talking to somebody about like, yeah, I had this idea for great white sharks and whatever. And they're like, oh, well, you should go talk to Discovery now because they'd love to hear it. And so I talked to, there was a producer who worked with them, but who'd worked for them, then had their own company. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'll talk to them. So, pitched to them, said, hey, I have this idea. I'd love to be as a magician, try to see if I could fool a great white shark. And that's me right there with a great white shark coming towards me. And I can explain what was going on there in a second. And they're like, oh, this sounds great. And then I had this idea of trying to make myself invisible. And I'm thinking, what'll happen is Discovery Channel go, oh, that's neat, but we're not going to do it. And then I have a great story. Like, yeah, I pitched them this thing, but it's too dangerous. And they said, no. They all said yes. Everybody said yes. Like, yep, can you do it? I'm like, oh, yeah, sure, I can pull this off. Can you? Oh, yeah, totally. I didn't know what. I had a theory and an idea of what I wanted to do, which was basically to try to make a suit that would help me blend into the background and do other things. And you can't see this here, but when it's lit right, it blends in. And this was the version 2. Version 1 was a ton of LEDs all over me that was basically like wrapped in like a TV screen that would blend in. But if you watch the TV special, it's called Andrew Mayne Ghost Diver, you will see that version short circuits 10 seconds after being in the water. And also, it never would have worked because that version had like a big yellow cable tied to me and then to the suit and to the boat. And where we went to go test with great whites, they would have just chewed right through that. So that was just not, and even if we didn't have that, I could not have fit that into the submersible. So the show was sort of me trying to deal with these challenges of like, I've got to figure out what to do because we're going on a boat, we're going to South Australia, and we're going to be around great whites, and I've got to go out there, no cage, and I got to not get eaten. I got to figure out a way to do it.
So tell us about, is this part of that too?
This was the version 1. So what this was is we built a series of LEDs that were wrapped around like the suit. And so the very first version was actually just like a thing that went on my chest. It was a proof of concept thing I made with a friend of mine, Jonathan, that was, had a video camera and back and whatever. Had another engineer help us, who'd actually built some cool stuff. So a lot of people working to put this together. I don't want to make it feel like it's just being a soldering iron. So we built that version, then we brought in some people to help us build a bigger version, and that was was overly complicated. So so finally we figured out how to do this. And for the special, I've got to go what's called the Isle of Jaws, right? And so the goal is I've got to go out there and have sharks around me, and then at one point tell the difference what it's like when I'm not invisible and then when I am invisible.
So for people not sure where that is, where is the Isle of Jaws?
So you go to Australia and you keep going south, and it's probably the last island before you get to Antarctica. So it's way down there. So our test is, I'm going to go outside of the submersible without anything protecting me other than a shield, and we'll see what happens. This was in the Bahamas. This is a tiger shark we tested. We just worked around so I could get used to being around tiger sharks. Is to see what happens. Great whites like to sneak up to you. So this is in Australia, and so what's happening there, I don't have the special suit. I'm just wearing a regular scuba, and just have a shield. The great whites, there were 16 of them around me, and this was a point where one came in really close. And while you're looking at one, another one is sneaking up behind you. So I had to turn around constantly because great whites would come up and they would try to bump you, because if you don't push back or resist, then you're food. So that was a fun experience. So we tested it first without the suit. And yes, they came up to me. They bumped me. They were very interested in me. When we tried the suit, we had no idea what was going to happen. We tried the suit, turned the suit on. They cleared away. They stayed away. I didn't become interesting to them. And we don't know if it's because I think they knew something was there, but I think it was just too weird for them.
I mean, that's cool. I mean, did you ever think you'd be sort of, near the bottom of the ocean with great white sharks with something that you invented and created yourself and you're sort of testing out, and there it is?
In a fevered fantasy, I would think that's cool. But Jim, like, I can be in a swimming pool and hear a splash and scare myself out of the water. I'm terrified of sharks. Like,
so how did you psych yourself out? How did you end up, the Isle of Jaws, south of Australia?
So
craft services must have been delicious.
I was the craft services for the shark. We've been in, I'll be on the Apple TV, the screensaver will switch to sharks, and I will quickly change it, and I'll go to my girlfriend, triggering, So the thing that is frightened as I am, and also understand, like, I didn't realize how prone to seasickness I was. Like, I literally, like, you can see me throw up on camera multiple times in the special. Great reason to watch. And in Australia, on our way out there, like, the crew thought I was just going to quit. They're like, this guy's not going to make it. This guy's going to quit or dehydrate and die. And the thing, and I'm terrified. I was terrified, but, like, I'm stubborn. I'm really, really, really stubborn. And that's the thing, is my stubbornness. Yeah. Well, that's why I went there and did it. And when
overrode the fear. Yeah, overrode the fear.
Here's the thing. When you're trying to paddle water and there might be a shark there, it's terrifying. When you are underwater and you're there and you know there are sharks there, you don't know all the sharks are there because they're around you and they're coming in to see you, to sweep up close to you. You know what it is. You know what you're dealing with. The fear of the unknown is different than, there are sharks here. I have accepted the idea I may get or be eaten, but I won't be surprised because I know that they're there.
Because they're there.
It was incredibly serene. It was one of the most serene, magical experiences I've ever had. And I talked to other people who've done that. And I'm not a thrill seeker. I'm not an adrenaline junkie. And the closest I can remember was like seeing a complete, like a total eclipse at the point at which you can look at the naked eye and see the hole in the sky. It was that kind of experience because you're surrounded by predators that are millions of years old, that have incredible instincts, and they are huge. And if they wanted to, they were curious at that moment. And it was not like, oh, there was a Zen-like connection. There was not. But there was this, I was in their environment. They are curious. And they're like, what is this? And to see that was incredible.
So it gave you a new appreciation or respect for sharks?
Well, yeah. The reason I wanted to do this was because, you know, sharks, many species of sharks are endangered or threatened. Yeah. And I wanted to come up with ways in which researchers could be near them and observe them without disrupting them, come up with ways to sort of not interfere with sharks. Because, like, I'm very concerned about, they have a larger thing. Like, my family's been involved in waterways issues, things like this, you know, for years. And that was sort of like, how can I do something cool where, you know, I can avoid, you know, can help maybe pursue something more. And we ended up doing some interesting stuff that some of the researchers involved, like, we didn't realize this. So that was cool.
Now, after doing that, any opportunity to do something like a science and nature show or other things in terms of, you know, going traveling and, well, obviously nobody's doing that right now, but you know what I mean, getting involved in more of those types of things with Discovery or other networks?
Yeah, I mean, there was opportunities came up, and I had conversations where I was asked, like, how do I feel about crocodiles? And how do I feel about, like,
being in South Florida, right? Everglades and all.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, was that that pulling off the technical side of that, or, you know, working on the technical problems, got me really into thinking about maybe what I want to start doing is contributing things in the field of technology. Maybe what I want to start doing is looking at in that area. And so I got very interested in one of the things I built, which if you go to ghostdiver.xyz, I built a VR environment, which allowed me to experience that in VR and show other people that. And I had to kind of program shark behavior into the sharks. And then I built a shark detector, like a system that would, like, when you're underwater, would spot sharks and tell you where they were. And to do that, I got into machine learning, artificial intelligence, and that led me into the sort of crazy path where I work now, you know, in artificial intelligence and doing some fun stuff with that. And it was sort of this, that took me down that path instead of the TV route.
Which is really amazing. And virtual reality too, some of that as well. Yeah.
Got my VR headset right there. And so, yeah.
That's really cool. And of course, a prolific best-selling, multi-best-selling author. Let's talk about some of the incredible things that you have penned. Had you always been a writer? Have you always been somebody who, did you like to write when you were in school? Did it come naturally? And how did you balance the writing? What came first, the writing, the magic, or the writing come after the magic? Because I know you wrote books about magic as well. And
well, I think for everybody, our story, we're all storytellers when we're little kids. You go to kindergarten, and I put a tweet about this the other day, is when you're a kid, you're a Renaissance person. You're an artist, you're a sculptor, you're an engineer, you're a storyteller. We all have those abilities in us. And then either we do things to reinforce them, or we sort of drift away and we become maybe a little bit detached from that, and we start deciding what we're not. And I don't think that's a healthy way to describe yourself, by what you're not, unless it's like, you know, I'm not a gambling addict or something. I loved ideas, and I could write like a 1-page or a 2-page short story, but my attention was always a problem. And when I was in high school, I could write, I'd be the guy that'd write the funny story, or I'd take classes, I could write the 3 or 4-page sort of funny kind of short story, and people liked that, but I wasn't like a writer like Stephen King. I wasn't a writer. Oh wow, the cover's out now. I wasn't a writer like I'd run a lot of my other hero writers. They were writing novels at 19. I wasn't doing that. I didn't have the patience to do that. And I thought that one day I'd become a writer. And my dad always told me like, oh, I think you'll be a writer one day. And I'm like, yeah, one day. And that was like one day. And then it was 10 years ago. No, I'm sorry, I'm blanking. It was 9 years ago. I was sitting at an airport in Texas. I got done doing a group of like some magic lectures for magic clubs. And I was sitting there, and I'd been to South by Southwest and saw some friends perform, do a big show for their audience. The internet entertainers did a show for their internet audience. And everything I'd been doing in TV had been behind the scenes. Like nobody had seen my TV pilots and stuff until now. And nobody knew even I did that. And so that was weird because people defined me by the things they saw, not by the really interesting things, which I was doing behind the scenes. And I read an article about how ebooks had taken off because of the Kindle. Mm-hmm. And I said to myself, yeah, I'm like, quit saying one day. Maybe I should write now. And I decided to first write a novella, which was like 30,000 words. And so I started in the airport on the iPad, and I started a novella, got home, and I finished it. And a week later, I put it out. And I do a podcast called Weird Things. And I told my fans about that. And it did really well. Got really good reaction. People liked it. I said, okay, let's write a novel, because that's really just 3 novellas. And so I sat down and I wrote a story. I wrote a story called Public Enemy Zero, which was this techno thriller about a guy who's infected with this rage virus where everybody wants to kill him when they're around him, kind of a reverse zombie story. And I finished the novel, and I gave it to my buddy to read. And I said, what do you think? So I think it's good. I'm like, should I release it? He's like, oh, why not? And I was at the point like, oh, I don't know if I have to release this because I wrote it and I feel good, and now I know I can write novels. I'm like, you know what? Why not? Let me release it. A year later, I'm sitting across the desk from one of my favorite film directors over here in Hollywood, California, in the Disney lot. I'd optioned one story to one of the producers of a big franchise, and it was just this life-changing moment of like, why not? And then I got lucky. That book did really well. It was like a top 100 seller on Amazon for a while. I kept writing. I got an agent along the way, but I kept self-publishing. I wrote the first book. The next big novel was Angel Killer, which was the first Jessica Blackwood story about a woman in the FBI who comes from family stage magicians. That put me on the list of the top 10 selling indie authors of the year with Amazon, and then publishing deals, etc. And I tell everybody, like, don't think that there's some there's some things I'm probably not going to become. Like, I'm not going to become a politician. I'm probably not going to become an NFL quarterback. But an author or other things that physics won't prevent me from doing,
right?
You could do that. And so
Jen has a question, and she said, which one should she try first? Is there an order of events in terms of the books? Should she start with one book to get the taste of the Andrew style and then go from there?
So, Jen, the question I have for you, what kind of reader are you? Are you kind of the reader that says, I'll get one of his books, I'm going to jump into the next book and the next book?
Valerie had said start with Angel Killer.
So
is this the Blackwood series?
So that's a good suggestion. So Jessica Blackwood is that she's the FBI agent, and so I could go with Valerie's suggestion there. And that book, there's 3 books in that series, right? There's 3 books in the Jessica Blackwood series. Then I started a series about a scientist called Theo Cray, who's a computational biologist. Don't worry, you don't have to know what any of that means. I love to explain things as I write, not in a boring way, I hope. I've done 4 books in the Theo Cray series, and the 5th book comes out, which we showed the image for Masterminds. Theo and Jessica are teamed up in that book. And so I took my character from this other series, and I took Theo from there. And so, yeah, start with the Jessica Blackwood books, read through the Jessica, then jump, if you want. If you like that, continue. Maybe one book is enough for you. But if you like that, there's 3 Jessicas, then you can go read the Theo stories, and then you're going to see Theo and Jessica together to see how those personalities work.
You can even find out how to make money on Mars, too, if you want to know how to make money on Mars. Tell us about this one. This is cool.
So I am a big space nerd. I've actually got several SpaceX hats next to me. This is actually a Blue Origin hat, which is Jeff Bezos's company, which considering my publisher is owned by Amazon, I feel from time to time I got to show some love for Mr. Bezos too. Although like I've got behind me, you can see like models of Elon Musk's rockets and the Boring Company flamethrower in the corner. Space is fascinating. We live in an exciting time when it comes to space technology and exploration. I've been following SpaceX for years. Like I went to like SpaceX, the first launch of the Falcon 9, when they sent the Dragon capsule when it did its first orbit, and then when it did its first, the first launch to the space station. I got to go see up close the Falcon Heavy, which was the two, the Falcon, which was the 3 rockets and the 2 that came and landed back, on land. I love this. We are at such an exciting point right now because the cost of sending things into space has dropped dramatically. If you can see behind me, that's, do you know about Starship? Yeah. The next generation rocket that he is building. Yeah. So those of you who don't know, Elon Musk.
Have you met him yet?
I've never met him, and it's probably for the best because I have friends like I've been to SpaceX several times. I have friends that work there. They've been investors in it and whatnot. But it would be too embarrassing, if I were to meet him and be like,
Like drooling and.
Oh yeah, it's probably so.
More than Copperfield or no?
What's that?
More than when you met Copperfield or no? I got
to be 12, so he's used to like a 12-year-old, like flipping out. So by the time I got to know David later on, keep that guy away from me. So they're building the next generation rocket, which is called Starship, which is completely reusable. It'll be an upper stage and a lower stage, and this is capable of putting things in orbit, and this thing could go to Mars. Yeah. This is the thing being built right now in Texas. Like you've seen the things on the news, the testing, the stuff. We live in a world where they're literally building a Martian rocket. And I keep we literally live in a world where people are building rockets to go to Mars. The richest man in the world, Jeff Bezos, is doing incredible stuff. It is whatever craziness we're going through right now. Yeah. 10 years from now, we're going to forget about because the exciting things that are going to be happening between artificial intelligence and spacecraft, etc. The future is really going to begin.
So because you're so forward thinking, you figured write a book about how to make money on Mars once we're there.
Yeah, I guess I got distracted. So I'm a big economics nerd, and I'm one of these, and I like to sort of look at like business models and how things work. So for this book, what I did was I wanted to explain the business case for what would happen. Why would you want to invest or spend money on Martian exploration? And I'm like a serious fan of economics, so I'm not going to go like, oh, because of tourism or because we'll find this magic rock. I get more into like what happens whenever you do research efforts in R&D and different kinds of how you can have biotech without having to discover any life there, because Mars has got 1/3 gravity of Earth, which means things behave differently. There are going to be different chemical compounds, other stuff there, and from a research point of view, would be a very interesting endeavor. So it goes into that.
That is really, really cool. And have you ever had writer's block with all the writing of the novels? Because I think I might know a cure or two. You got a whole series of cures for the writer's block too, huh? Tell us about that.
So often, if you asked an experienced writer about writer's block, they'll tell you it's a myth. It doesn't exist. But you start with people who are beginning in writing, and you ask them, and they'll tell you it's a real thing. And it's because if you're a more experienced writer, you're probably more familiar with the language to describe what you're going through when you're just starting out. Maybe what you're really dealing with is paralysis. Maybe you have a bunch of different ideas and you don't know which way to pursue. Or maybe you're scared by structure. Maybe you have an idea, but you don't know how this plays into a book. Right. And I tried to break that down in the Cure for Writer's Block because I'm still a new writer by writing standards, compared to my peers. I'm a still young guy figuring things out. And I figured, well, let me, writers tend to, much older. It's the beautiful thing about being a writer. You can write at any age. Right. So I thought, let me explain some of my thinking on that and help people understand the different kinds. Because there's writer's block, there's writer's knot, the different sort of ways in which we think that we can't write when the reality is we can. And one of my favorite examples is there was a show in downtown Hollywood called Opening Night. And what it was a completely improvised musical. Every night, there'd be 5 or 6 members of the show. They'd go on stage. They'd ask the audience for suggestions. And it might be like, oh, horse racing and motorcycles. And they would improvise an entire musical with structure, with songs, and with dance numbers around those suggestions, which, yeah, it means there's no writer's block is really just a mental state. It's just a thing to look around and find a solution to. If these people could go make musicals every night, then anybody can figure out the next part of their story. Anybody can figure out where they need to go next. They just have to ask the right questions.
That makes sense. Absolutely. And again, the fact that what I think is really cool, because there's a theme to a lot of what you do. It's like you do the act and then you want to help people who are trying to do the act. Meaning you did the same thing with illusion and magic. Did it. And then showing people how they can do it too. Writing, bestsellers. But let me show you how you can do it too. You seem to be very pay it forward, give back. It seems to be part of your DNA.
I mean, you say it in a very charitable way. I would say, like in the magic phase, you know, I made money by writing books on magic and stuff. Yeah. And so, but I enjoy talking. I mean, I'm one of those people, like I love to talk to people about it. It helps me learn. It helps me understand. So I do a lot of Periscope sessions where I just hop onto my Twitter and say, hey, if you want to talk about writing, come ask me. And I do that in other ways because I get value out of it. I enjoy it. It's not like, I don't want to do this, but man, I guess I got to. Like I like in a gym, if you were on an island and there were 3 other people there, you'd put on a show.
Especially if it was the Isle of Jaws.
Exactly. Well, funny thing about just real quick thing, we show up there and it looks like this rocky, barren island. On one side, there's a seal colony where the seals breed and then they swim, and then the sharks come by and have dinner, and the sharks swim around the island doing laps. Over to this side, there was this reef, this rocky reef, where if your boat would get too close, you'd get a hole torn in it. So you can't go on that side if you tried to go ashore there because the seals would kill you. They're protective there. You've got great white sharks swimming all the way around the island, and we were close enough. One of the crew members said, see that sign? And I looked, and I could see the sign ashore, and it said, like, danger, venomous snakes. The island is filled with death adders. I'm like, this is a horrible place.
Do people live there? Does anybody live there?
No, I mean, it's a small island. Like, no, why would you live there? Yeah. Nobody lived there. Lived.
I want to see YouTube videos of that tonight. Now you got me intrigued.
Yeah, it's a small little island,
but it's loaded with everything you can think of.
But it's like the bear, like a bunch of rocks and deadly snakes.
Deadly snakes, and you got jars circulating.
Sharks, yeah.
And then you even did how to write a novella in 24 hours. See? Like I say, you do it, and then you show people how to do it. Tell us about this one, too. And other questionable and possibly insane advice on creativity for writers.
So once you start to figure out structure, once you start to understand elements of story, it's a very freeing moment because then you're less afraid. And I think I try to tell people, like there is a guitar behind you. And I have a feeling that you are totally unafraid of sitting down there with no idea what you're going to do and start to find a song or to find a thing and to play with it and see where it goes, right? You have never had musician's block in your life. You have always been able to, and that's why I want writers to feel the same thing. You can sit down there and you can freeform and you can do things, and just don't get so hung up on it being perfect or having the right structure right away. Play your chords. Get used to telling a story, characters, and doing the stuff. If you read enough Stephen King stories, you find out that, like, oh, this is going to be like his other story. The group's going to come together here, and they're going to have this moment. And that's fine because those are his chords. That's what he does really well. And then he'll come along and blow us away with something totally innovative. And so I wrote this to sort of tell people, like, you can, at that point, I'm like, writing a novella, which is 30,000 words in 24 hours, like that was sort of like the upper limit. Like, let me show people how to write something like 30,000 words in 24 hours. I have since broken that, and I've done a novel in one day.
What?
And for NaNoWriMo, I decided to do the laziest NaNoWriMo ever.
How much coffee do you drink, and what brand do you use?
Diet Coke, my friend.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah, so there's coming up, they have National Novel Writing Month, and what I decided to do was I figured I'd wait till the last day, and then I'd tell my Twitter fans, like, hey, I wonder how much I could get done in a day. And I knew what I wanted to try to do. I wanted to try to write a novel in 24 hours. And so what I did was I used voice dictation. And so I needed really, really quiet. So I actually sat in my Tesla, which was super quiet, and I would dictate the story because I'm in my garage, it's very quiet. I dictated this, do an hour, go leave there for a while, get something to drink, whatever, go back in there. And I did like 60,000 words in a story for a novel in one 24-hour period doing that. And it's not a good book. It's not a good story. But it was just to sort of, for myself, to see, like, I went from the point of view of, like, trying to finish a page seemed impossible. Trying to write a novel seemed impossible. And then when I write a novel, I outline a lot and whatever, and they come together pretty quickly because I spend a lot of time thinking the structure. But I just sort of wanted to say, like, if I could write a book in a day, if you gave yourself 2 months and it's your first book and you're trying to do this, you can do that. You can do this. I couldn't do what I did 3 years ago, and now I can do it. Now, writing a good book in a day, that will be, that'll be a special thing.
Merlin still wants to know, when you were swimming with the sharks off the Isle of Jaws there, did you have doctors available at all times?
So we'd always have, like, there would be like a set medic, but they would be somebody who's trained in how to deal with anything that happened. And that's part of the thing, is that there was such a wonderful crew of people. When you watch Discovery Channel, when you watch Shark Week, part of the amazing thing is the people that make these shows, the cameramen, the people who work on all of this stuff, they are incredibly talented people. And part of the reason I was able to go do what I do is when I was in Australia, when I was out there, it was just myself and Andy Casagrande, who's the camera guy, who's like an amazing, underwater photographer. He's extremely knowledgeable about sharks. He's a guy who's just multi-hyphenated about stuff. He was there to watch me, and he's like, all right, here's the deal. We'll go down there. I'll be on the camera. I'll watch you, and I'll warn you. And like, you're going to warn me. I'm like, well, I know who's getting the worst part of this deal is having me as your spotter. And he was incredible. And so, but we had our medic on board, both when I did the Caribbean dive and with two different medics there, each one of them was incredible. These people I know, like if I was in trouble, they would be in the water in a heartbeat to help me out. So, and that's you get the sort of false confidence too, because it's like, I've been around great whites. And I was like, yeah, and I was there, and I had like 8 people on board who knew more than I did, who were ready to jump in and save my butt if something happened. Yeah,
that's an interesting look on your face there. It's like almost Twilight Zone-ish. Would you like to join me?
That's actually in a beach in Australia, and that's actually my headshot now, because like the one for my A&E show, I've aged considerably, and so. That's my headshot I use now, is this sort of, I just took my selfie there of like.
You didn't build a time machine, huh? Where you are able to go back at all, or you're working on that?
Next steps.
Even a DVD on levitation. Tell us about that. That's cool stuff.
So levitating is like fun, is a magic effect. It's like the most purest thing. It's like, hey, look at me, I'm floating. When I was a kid, I don't remember the first time I saw levitation, but I remember the first time I saw David Copperfield do his flying, which was amazing.
Yeah.
And I got really into all the different methods in which magicians could do this. And so I've taught, and again, people at Stagecraft, it's not witchcraft. I put together like videos and some books teaching magicians different ways to do this. But my favorite thing I ever did was I had a series of little videos that would air on PBS stations called Wizard School.
Oh, I remember that.
I came up. Yeah, and I came up with a way to show how to float on a broom, which was, I taught to 8-year-olds. And I would see videos of 8-year-old kids like doing the broom floating thing. And it was a trick I invented. And to see them doing this, oh, that was awesome. It was awesome. Because like parents would tell me like, yeah, Kathy likes to bring out the broom and go do the broom levitation thing when we have guests over. And it's just, it's neat when something takes, like, you have a great community here, and you started as a nucleus, but you watch this community take off. There are people who are probably friends with each other, and people who are supportive of each other. Right. When you make a thing and you see this thing go live on and do its own thing, it's incredible.
I would imagine that special where you showed them how to do that with the broom, they probably aired that during Sweeps Month, huh?
Yeah, you'll forget. I'm too slow. I'm too slow for these things.
I always wait. Yeah. So you were showing this one because you have this there with you too. Is this a more recent?
This is this is my newest book. This is The Girl Beneath the Sea, and it's about Sloane McPherson. She is she's a police scuba diver in South Florida, and this is sort of kind of her first sort of story of getting into her first serious investigation. I wanted to take scuba diving, and I wanted to take growing up in South Florida and put that into a book. So this is a series, Girl Beneath the Sea. The next book comes out, I think, in February. And a lot of fun, just a lot of fun. If you like adventure and you like diving, or if you liked any of the sort of scuba diving stories I told you here, lot of that in there, a lot of it based on some real experiences, but she's way braver than I am. So
some of them ask, is there romance at all involved? You know, some of the folks like a little touch of romance in some of the books that they read, novels.
There is usually a bit of, you know, often somebody of interest or something like that. Sloane's got a very complicated relationship with her boyfriend, who's actually the father of her. You know, Sloane had a kid, was a teenager, and she didn't want to marry the guy because he came from a very wealthy background and she came from a troubled sort of thing, and she never wanted her identity to be tied up in this guy, but she loves him, and it's, you know, kind of a complicated situation. And Theo Cray, we watch him, a naturalist. He has a relationship, and then we watch Theo Cray become a very difficult person. And then, you know, with Jessica Blackwood, she always has very complicated situations. And then in the new book, Masterminds, we put two complicated people together. But don't expect it. We'll see.
Can you add an S to that and call it Master's Mind?
Yes. Then I have to pay you a royalty.
When we get mail and it says Jim Master, it feels so incomplete. You know, when your name is Masters all your life, and then it's Jim Master, it's like you couldn't afford the S.
but when you have an S on the last name, we always go like, how do I do the possessive of this?
Oh, a lot of people have problems with that. Yeah. It's not apostrophe S. It's the apostrophe after the S.
Yeah.
It's not
missing something.
It's not the Masters' family.
Yeah.
Also, too, this one's cool. The Chronological Man. Tell us about that.
So I wanted to write like a steampunk story. So steampunk, you know, it's like a genre of science fiction where all the technology is sort of like steam age. And I had this idea of a time traveler, but I wanted to make it like really realistic. So he basically uses hibernation to travel forward through time because, you know, the backstory is we don't know how old this guy is. We don't know if he started in the 1800s, the 1700s, or the 1600s. And it's this first story is that he comes out of his chamber because people are disappearing around Boston in 1892, and he's got to find out what's going on.
Wow.
And so if you like Doctor Who kind of stuff, I'd say that's kind of the closest analogy to it.
Juanita in South Africa who mentioned that Elon Musk is from South Africa. She was waving the flag there. Who is your favorite author? Or do you have several?
Several, and it is a great question. So, as a kid, I loved Robert Heinlein and Isaac Asimov. Those two were science fiction writers. I loved them. And then when I got a little older, of course, Stephen King, I love. And then Michael Crichton. Michael Crichton's been like an author I really respect because I think that he really gets his science. And that's one of the things I try to do is make sure that I get my science right, because when I read a book that deals with something, it can be frustrating when you're like people, they read this one, it talks about this topic. I'm like, they got it all wrong. So Michael Crichton, you know, this guy wrote Jurassic Park. Like, how do you top that? And he also was a filmmaker too. Michael Crichton, he got his MD. Michael Crichton was a doctor. He actually wrote books while he was in med school. So when people say, I don't have time to write, he became a doctor while writing books. That's how he paid his bills. So I mean, that's kind of an inspirational story by itself. And actually, my agent used to work with Michael Crichton, so she's got stories about him, which is, it's so neat to be able to, like, you know, hear about, you know, your hero that way. And like Harry Potter, like J.K. Rowling's books are phenomenal. You know, the most successful children's franchise ever is incredible. You know, Ian Fleming. You go read back the early James Bond books, and those are great. So a lot of wonderful authors that I'm intimidated by.
Have you ever thought of doing voiceovers for any animated characters? Because you have an animated voice, especially when you're describing things. You really punch certain words. And I think it's really cool. I studied voice for years. I do voiceover work. Have you thought of doing any of that? Because sometimes your voice goes into these different sounds, which I think is cool.
It's fun. My problem is, like, I hate my voice, and my best friend, Justin Robert Young, has got an amazing voice. And so when you're so close to somebody who is if they become like, my buddy Justin's, he's funny. He's got the voice. So I would never think about these things because I look at how much better he is at all of that.
But then you're great. I think it's terrific.
Well, it's very kind of you to say that.
Tell us about this Station Breaker, because it's this is a cool one. There's 1 and 2, right?
So so the that book, I had all this love of space, and I decided that I wanted to write a realistic story about, you know, kind of set a few years into the future. Like, what if we were actually, you know, Elon Musk had his way and we were actually going to space, etc. And that was a really, really fun experience, was sort of just to tell a story about, you know, setting something in space, you know, doing this sort of like, it's sort of a really crazy sort of paced kind of story. And I wanted to make sure my science was accurate, whatever. So it's a guy, basically it's this guy who, it's kind of it's a thriller, and it takes place in space, on Earth, back in space, whatever, but it's very real. Everything I described in there's something that exists now, or we're going to be seeing in the next 5 years or so.
Cool.
I wrote that. I wrote the sequel, Orbital, and then the best compliment I ever got was that a NASA astronaut who'd been on ISS wrote to me and told me how much he liked it and how much I got the details right.
So
that
that's really cool. Yeah, that's really cool. Earlier you mentioned this one too.
Yeah, so that's the first Jessica Blackwood story. So Jessica is she grew up in a family of stage magicians, and I based her kind of in part on people I knew in entertainment and in magic, etc. And she decided to go into law enforcement, and this book sort of deals with why she made that change, and she's dealing with a very big case. I grew up in a family of police officers or federal agents. My dad was a federal agent. My brother was a police officer at the time and now is a federal agent. And I decided that I wanted to sort of do the inverse, you know, and so let's tell it sort of, you know, about, you know, my story. Let's do a story of somebody who's more interesting, and decided to go into law enforcement. And she's a really good critical thinker. And that's what I wanted to do, is I wanted to tell a story who was who could be a role model to anybody for how good of critical thinking, you know, how good her skills are for that. And so that was where that came from.
How about Murder Theory? There's a whole series of these. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the follow-up to, I did the Theo Cray. So Theo Cray, I wanted to do a story about a scientist, and they're all told, all these books, the way I tell them from the first-person point of view. So you're inside their head as they tell you their story. And Theo, I have friends who are like brilliant scientists, and I love listening to them explain things. I love seeing how they see the world, and you realize it's a lot like talking to an inquisitive 10-year-old. And you realize that there's a sort of sense about that. And I said, you know what, I want to use that as a story. So I created this character, Theo, who's into computational biology, which is using computers to, you know, to model systems and stuff. It's a very complex system on one level, but it's not kind of easy to understand on another once you get the goal of it. And he gets pulled into a crime situation where he's accused of something in the first book, The Naturalist, and he realizes he has a knack for using his approach to solve things. And one of the elements I use in here was something that I'm like, oh, this is probably something somebody's going to be doing at some point. And now there's been papers people have been doing, not because I invented it, but because it was an obvious sort of thing to go, you could do that. And so a lot of the science in here, I'll have people go, oh, is that real? Like, yeah, no, that's real. Like, that's legit. Or is this real? Like, no, but there's a group that's about to go study this or whatever. And so that's been exciting.
You know what? It just made me think of something. Have your family members come to you because you figure things out in the way that you do, when they have, not that they can really reveal what they're working on as federal agents, law enforcement, but sometimes law enforcement, federal agents have gone to people who are, you know, whether they're psychics or illusionists or magic, or just the way that they think, the way their brain operates and how they figure things out, paranormal, whatever. Have you ever been approached by either the family members or others to help sort of figure certain scenarios out?
Yes, I've worked with law enforcement before on stuff, and sometimes it'd be in ways that would seem like not intuitive, but then you go through the stuff. So I've been asked before to do some stuff like that. And I've worked with like agencies that work with like the Defense Department at times to say, you know, what would be doing for something like this. And I've done a little bit of that, not a lot, but I have done some of that. And I'm always wary of people who try to oversell their expertise, because I've known people like, oh, I go do classes for law enforcement on this. I'm like, everything you do is BS. You're not going to help them, you know?
Exactly.
And I've done, you know, early on, I would do stuff too. Like I worked with James Randi, who's investigator of unusual claims. I used to work on his $1 Million Challenge. And we'd get brought stuff by, like, people would say, oh, this device claims that it can do these things, like detect drugs or do stuff like this. And we would do tests and stuff, and we would work with law enforcement agencies and help them, help tell them, like, this is what you need to look for, this is how you do that. So, yeah, I've done a lot of that earlier on. You know, lately, you know,
yeah,
I'm just the fiction guy.
So where do you think Hoffa really is? To be determined. It may be in his next book.
Yeah.
Martian Emperor. Tell us about this one.
That was a sequel to The Chronological Man. And that came about because there is this crazy thing. If you go type in the words airship and hysteria, in the late 1800s, early 1900s, people were reporting seeing airships, mysterious airships. And this is prior to the Wright brothers.
And not the Hindenburg.
Yeah, we figured out where that one was.
Yeah.
So you can see this sort of, and I thought like, oh, it'd be fun to take that up. And the problem is that looks like it's like actually a way out science. And that my biggest mistake in the marketing on that book was it looks like it's a big science fiction book, and it's actually about an elaborate hoach.
It actually has that. It does have that big, bold sort of, even like a movie open. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was gosh, I did that whole artwork all myself. I mean, I may have had. I think I'm the Martian there. I'm pretty sure I'm the guy, the little guy there. I'm not the Statue of Liberty, but like I did all that in Photoshop and stuff. And like,
wow. So you do that too, yeah, creating. That's cool. You also did. I wanted to show people here, Magic and Mischief. Tell us about that.
So this was, I did this. This was the last Magic book I wrote, and what I did was, I would find myself, after I did TV and stuff, often I'd be at a party and people would say, oh, do you want to do something? Could you perform something? And I like to do stuff that was more interactive and kind of a different sort of experience. So I put together kind of a collection of things that like I was doing for fun and for people. And some of them were magic, some of them were puzzles and stuff. Like I've got a thing there that's sort of this weird escape thing that you can have other people do where you put like these handcuffs on them and they have to figure out how to separate themselves. And it's also routine. So that was just sort of like, let me share with the Magic community some of the stuff I've been playing with and had a lot of fun with, and sort of say like, hey, let's deconstruct the idea of a magic trick and make it more of an experience for you and like a group of 5 or 6 people or 30 people at a party, and not worry about, think about it more as an experience instead of a singular dramatic moment of watch me do this, but like, I'm going to start this, you do this, let's see what happens.
That's cool. That's cool. Hollywood Pharaohs too. What was that one about?
That was, so funny thing. So I went and I wrote this book, Angel Killer, that was the Jessica Blackwood story.
That's the other one, yeah.
Right. I put that out there, and it got, my fans liked it. That did pretty well. And then I watched the sales go up, and then they started to drop. And then I said, okay, move on to the next book. I always move on to the next thing. Like I'm always working on the next thing. So if something succeeds or fails, it doesn't matter. I'm working on something else. So what happened was I put out Angel Killer, and then it had its peak, and then it started to drop. I redid the cover, and I redid the description of the book based upon what people were telling me in the comments, what they liked, whatever. And then I moved on, and I wrote this story. And what it is, it's about a guy who is a detective who does kind of like private security work in LA, who has the misfortune of looking like a very famous actor. And sort of, I let you sort of fill in if it's like Brad Pitt or somebody like this. So, he kind of, he works, he works for that guy time to time, but that's the problem, is that like people like, oh, no, I'm not so-and-so. And so it's a funny sort of premise. And this was like, I wanted to do kind of a Raiders of the Lost Ark meets like the Big Lebowski, or some sort of like LA noir kind of like crazy story about, Egyptology and everything else. So it's a modern day kind of crime story set in LA. I put this book out, and during the summer, it was like the best rated mystery on all of Amazon for that period, like the highest rated mystery on all of Amazon. The sales were okay, but it was best rated mystery.
Congratulations on that. Wow. Did that surprise you?
It did. But the thing was like the sales were never crazy about it. And I know, because like I go back, like I could have made that character more, drawn him out more or whatever. Like,
so highest rated is, that's the people who've read it too, as they've put it as 5-star type thing.
Yeah,
right?
those
Wow.
people. Yeah, so got really great reviews from people. But like I remember talking to my agent about it, and she was very like, yeah, I should have. If I were to do another one, I need to do this. While that happened, while my attention was on this book, Angel Killer started ticking up in sales and getting higher and higher and higher and higher and higher. And I was at like Dragon Con, hanging out with a bunch of friends, and I couldn't figure out. And I looked, and all of a sudden, Angel Killer was like a top 10 best-selling book. It was like crazy. Yeah. It had monster sales, and that was the book that really changed my entire trajectory as a writer. Was the success of Angel Killer. But it was sort of this funny thing of like, yeah. I moved on to the other thing, and I wasn't worried about that book, and it went out there and it had its crazy success while I wasn't paying attention.
As soon as you stopped worrying, right? As soon as you stopped. There's a theme to a lot of the things in your life. When you don't worry about it, you just let it ride. surprises can come. Tell us about this one too. Name of the Devil. That's part of the Jessica Blackwood novel series as well, right?
Yeah, so this was my first book under contract with the publisher. So I worked with HarperCollins. They picked up my Jessica Blackwood series. Well, first we did a re-release of Angel Killer, where I worked with a wonderful editor, Hannah Wood, who taught me. I learned a lot from her, like a lot about writing and how to improve my writing, etc. But this was really kind of my sophomore book. This was going to be my sophomore book with the publisher, and I was nervous because most authors, often their sophomore book tends to not be that strong, and you'll see this happen a lot because they spent years on that first book, and then if they put out another one within 12 or 18 months later, it maybe didn't have enough time or care as the first one, and it drops. So I said, I don't want that to happen. I want to make sure that I really knock it out of the park with this. I wrote it, and then I was nervous, and I actually sat down and I started writing an entirely different. I took the same premise, but I wrote a completely different book using a different way to tell the story, whatever. And I went to my agent, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm unsure. Which one do you like better? She, bless her heart, she read both, and she goes, your first one's perfect. Why would you do? Like, why did you write the other one, idiot? She didn't say idiot, but that was the tone. And I learned about having confidence and stuff, though, because I knew with the first one, I did everything I set out to do. I spent a lot of time on my outline. I had the story things as a structured mystery. I thought I did everything I needed to do. That book came out, and then that was I was a Thriller Award finalist. In writing, if you're a thriller writer, the Thriller Award is like the best, like the award. If you're doing mystery, the Edgar. And so I was a finalist for Best Paperback Original for that. And it blew me away because I thought I still feel like an outsider. And next thing you know, I'm at a banquet in New York City at the Ritz-Carlton, and like you're in this big hall where like people have announced campaign, your presidential campaigns and stuff, and and to go lose there is what a great place to lose, but it was an amazing experience to just sort of see, how you can be an outsider, and then one day, you get on this list of like the finalists for something, and it's just, who knew?
So you see several more works coming your way, like you mentioned Mastermind. I mean, is it just it's pouring out of you, or do you ever have times where you're like, wow, I'm going to take a break. I can't think of anything next, or I need to get away from it just to cleanse my head and just to sort of do some other type of task, go ride on a bike or whatever and pull away so you can get re-energized. How do you get re-energized to reboot, to continue creating?
It's one is that like, so I do 2 novels a year, and I know I have enough warning to know like, oh, I have a book due end of this year, right? And we're in October, and I haven't started it yet. But I know how much time it takes for me to write an outline. I know how much time it takes me to write a book. And I try to give myself more time. And
you already know what it is? You already know what the premise is?
Yeah, because I was pitched. I'm writing a sequel to the third book. The sequel to this is I'm writing the third book in this series, right? So, and I also know how to beg my publisher for a few more weeks of time, too. So
for those who aren't familiar how it works, is it you come up with that idea, or does the publisher say, we want you to come up with another book in that series?
I will go to, so what happened like with Naturalist started where I wrote that originally for another publisher, said, we'd like you to do something like this. And I did. I'm like, nah, that's not what we want. And I'm like, oh, okay. Real glad I did that. Thanks. And then my agent loved it. And she really wanted me to work with Thomas and Mercer, which was an imprint of Amazon Publishing. And so she pitched me, talked to them, whatever. My agent worked really hard, and she made that deal with Amazon Publishing because she said, Andrew would be a great fit. They would be a great fit for me. And it has been a wonderful fit. And because they're mostly focused on ebooks, that's where most of my audience is. They look at the industry the same way that I was looking at the industry. They work at a pace I like. So I came on board with The Naturalist, and then we did the second book in the Naturalist series. Then they want to do a couple more. And I'm like, hey, I've got another series I think you will like. And so we went to them with that, and they said, okay, we'll do that. And this book they got behind and had an amazing launch. Like this was, we've already hit 75,000 copies on this. And so they're thrilled, I'm thrilled. And so basically I go to them and say, I want to do another thing. Does it work for you? Keeping in mind that, I'm not at the I'm not James Patterson or Stephen King where I can go all of a sudden launch a science fiction or a fantasy series. You know, I'm still gonna kind of do mystery thriller. But so kind of I went with them, and they're like they would rather have my books published with them than with another publisher, and so we worked that out. And
here's a good question: any of these possible movies, and if there was a movie about Jessica, who do you think should play her role?
So I've done for years I've had sort of the option sort of movie dance sort of thing where different books will be under option with different studios. Like I can tell you what the conference rooms look like in every major studio around here, because at one time they had an option on one of the books either for a film or TV series, and you want it to happen right. I've seen properties that are done kind of in a half butt way. I'm not trying to in a way that sort of isn't always good, and not that I'm like, not that it has to be done perfectly, but I've had people like, oh, we want to do this, and they describe Jessica where I'm like, she's smarter than that, she's more interesting than that, and I felt like, oh, and I've had other people that have great takes on it, like, oh, this person would be wonderful, and so it's a numbers game, and I've let my agent sort of handle like going out there pitching to talk to people, but I've never really tried to sort of push too hard because it ends up being its own thing. You end up trying to just chase that down, and it can be problematic. You can be a distraction to write. I get a control final form. I write a book, I tell the story, you read this is the way it meant to be. If a great director or somebody wants to come along and make it, that could be awesome, but that's not what I set out to do.
Which is amazing. I mean, talk about what you've set out to do. What have you not done in these years that you still want to do? I mean, you've really accomplished a lot, and it's really cool because it's just these things you set out that you're going to do this, and you like super served it, and then all these opportunities sort of meandered in your direction as a result of you just doing this thing that you love doing and that you've really tried to figure out and dissect, and then opportunities come from that, and then you moved on to this other thing and then really super serve that, and then these opportunities have rolled in from that, and then you have this other thing, and now there's all these different things that sort of have a thread to them, but at the same time they're individualized. What else would you have, or do you want to do? What's on that bucket list that you still are chasing, if anything? Because you've done a lot of cool things.
I've gotten much more involved in technology, and I had a project, something I was going to launch this year, and then I got involved with something else, which was even more interesting, an opportunity I couldn't pass up. I'm very interested in the idea of, and having work as a creator and having worked as, in different sort of fields, I've been very appreciative of what information's out there and what tools are out there. And I understand how empowering having easy access to tools and information can be. And I would say that the thing that I kind of want to do next is kind of shift more into technology and kind of maybe sometimes more behind the scenes on some stuff, and kind of doing things that I know are going to have a bigger impact than, I love writing books and I'll continue to write books, but also something that can have a measured effect. Like I love writing, but like my favorite experience talking about writing has been going to, a classroom of kids who are developmentally disabled and teaching them basic things on how to write or how to tell a story. And you see somebody who didn't think they could do a thing. And how can I do that on a bigger scale? Like when you come up with a thing that empowers people, that's exciting. And somebody asked me here about what about Carl Sagan as a writer. Carl Sagan, as a kid, watching the original Carl Sagan Cosmos was incredible. We had the Cosmos coffee table book, and here is a person that contributed in multiple fields. This is a person that he did like legit astronomy. You go look at some of the things Carl Sagan was doing on astronomy. He was a guy that also did legit sort of like take things that were popular theories that were pseudoscience, and he would address them and explain them to regular people instead of just saying, take my word, I'm a scientist. And then as a communicator, what he did in communicating the love of science, we have yet to have anybody who's his equal.
No, we lost him too early.
Yeah, and so I look at like the ability of somebody to take something from one field and then go contribute so much somewhere else. Like if you play Carl Sagan's voice and you show star stuff, you get the hair on the back of your neck raises. It is just,
that series of PBS was awesome. Yeah, absolutely.
And his grasp of communication, his way to read. Yeah, and he wrote a lot with Anne, his wife Andrew, and so like what they were able to do and what he was able to put together, just incredibly powerful.
And in layman's terms too, in a way where anybody could really grasp it and have a real interest in it. Yeah. Don't you think you do that too? I think you have that ability, and the things I've seen you break down and dissect for other people, you do have that ability as well.
Well, there's ability, then there's Carl Sagan. So, but I would say my heroes have always been people like that, like Isaac Asimov. Like I've got sitting next to me Isaac Asimov on numbers. I've got an Isaac Asimov book. I'm listening to his Foundation series, and then I have a book of his explaining the history of mathematics and numbers because I love that. Michael Crichton, more people learned about some of what genetics was capable of from Jurassic Park than Discover Magazine, and I think that there's a tremendous amount of I try, if you read my books, like my Theo Cray books, where I explain I get into like things like Fourier analysis and things that people might go, I don't know what this is, it's complicated, and then I'm like, let me take what I've learned from really good explainers and let me put this into a narrative so you can understand some aspect of something. And so I'm inspired by that. I don't think I'm anywhere can even scratch the surface of what those people are capable of doing, but it certainly is an inspiration.
Absolutely. Do you see yourself ever toying with illusion and magic again?
You never know. You never know. Never say never. You never know.
Who are some of the people that still inspire you in that realm that are doing it today? Blaine and others? Chris Angel?
The quality that you have now, there are some amazing people who are performing, and there is entirely new genres of stuff. Like when I was a kid, if you could do fancy, you'd maybe a few people would do fancy stuff with decks of cards and stuff, and then you see. That became like, I have a friend of mine, Chris Kenner, who's the producer for David Copperfield's show. Chris Kenner had in one of his books this really complicated like shuffle called Sybil, where you're like the cards are all over your hands. That was a starting point for an entire generation of kids who got into magic, who loved just these fancy flourishes. And a lot of older magicians like, oh, that's not magic. I'm like, who cares? It's their own thing. And there are conventions now. I've been to like these conventions where the average age is like 19. And you see these kids get together from around the world to share these incredible moves. And you'll see kids with disabilities, somebody with no arms and no legs who's able to sort of maneuver things in ways that are amazing and astounding. And their love and reception for people who are differently able than whatever to do incredible things. And I would say that's one of the joyous things to sort of watch. Magic is way more collaborative now. Like when I did a show, I had a group of people who worked with me who would work with David Blaine, and then they might go work with, Justin Willman and other people on stuff. And so I think that that's sort of inspiring, is to sort of see what's going on in the community, that I think it is a lot tighter than it was before. And that's even like comedians will tell you the same thing. Comedy used to be much more cutthroat. The comedy community today is much better than it was before. And we talk a lot about negative stuff, but I can tell you that within entertainment, within a lot of these things, like there's a lot more love than there ever has been. And I'm inspired by a lot of people just doing brilliant stuff. I could name names that maybe aren't mainstream names, but people who are just, the level of talent that exists today, never been like this before.
What would you say to somebody watching this live now, or maybe in the archives on our YouTube channel, who are thinking about going into, whether it's writing or going into magic and illusion? Do you feel magic and illusion has the same magical quality today that it did, like when the Doug Hennings and some of the other ones that you would see on television, all these big specials and all these things? You think the interest and the love for it is still there? I mean, I've always loved it. That, and I love ventriloquism as well, the ventriloquist dolls, those guys, I just think. And,
that's how David Copperfield got started, was a ventriloquist.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. I mean, it's just really amazing, the people that have done that. And but do you feel the interest in magic and illusion is equal to, greater than, less than what it was maybe 10, 20, 30 years ago from your experience?
It's far more accessible now, because like the thing, like I used to do magic DVDs, but like YouTube destroyed that. And it's fine, because it's a creative destruction. Like, because first was the problem, people just like copy it, like, and upload it and be like, wait a second. Then you get people who just like literally verbatim, like, here's a trick I made, and they copy somebody else's thing. But the other side of it, though, was now the accessibility to learn a lot of things. There are a lot of people creating genuine stuff.
Yeah.
Because of YouTube, it's a lot easier. When I was a kid and I wanted to learn magic, there were 4 books in my library. That was it. I had no other way to do it. And if I maybe went to the one magic shop in town was in some guy's creepy basement, which was scary. And, you know, some of the people in magic were kind of scary. And so now, you know, there are kids who've only, their entire interaction with magic has been by watching a screen like this. And they're incredible at what they're able to learn. Now, taking that into the real world and growing as a performer is another thing. But to start now, it is a lot easier. There are more female magicians than ever. There are more people who are saying, I can make magic my own. It doesn't, and that's what I would say. My encouragement to anybody is like, don't ask for permission to be who you want to be. Don't ask for permission to say that you're going to be a writer or a magician or an engineer or whatever. Make things. Go out. And my biggest advice to people, I say 2 things you need to know. Make things and learn things. Learn how to make stuff and understand to continue learning. Like what did I do after I had my A&E show? I was doing Udemy. I was studying, you know, machine learning and artificial intelligence in Udemy. I was learning programming languages and stuff like this, which, you know, and because I'm like, as I was realized, man, there's a whole way to create that I don't know how to create. And I want to learn how to do that. Right. And so at any point in your life, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Jump on board stuff. You know, I'm having the most productive point in my life right now. Mm-hmm. Like, I feel like everything I did was just the starting point.
Leading up to it. Right. Exactly. Yeah. Have you considered writing at some point? I mean, it's early, though. You have, like I said, you've done so many different, incredible, fascinating things. A memoir, you know, story about all these different experiences. You've probably been asked that already by publishers, maybe. Tell us about your...
No.
Not yet,
Nobody's asking for that yet. No, I don't. I'm still figuring things out. I'm still, like...
living, doing it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have any grand wisdom to pass on to anybody yet, and so, or I'm not like Michael Caine, where I can write about what I did last week, and it's the most riveting, engaging thing you ever read. So,
well, when you think about it, I mean, there's a lot of people saying they're really enjoying the interview, and it's good stuff. They're learning a lot. Sometimes we pass along these little nuggets to other people and we don't even realize that we're doing it because we're just doing our thing, and other people get inspired by that. I'm sure you've heard, you know, others say that they've been inspired by, you know, what you've done, whether it's, you know, the novels, whether it's the illusion of magic, probably even young kids maybe just really enjoying it, and you've inspired somebody else to do it too, which is kind of cool. You know, the moral to it is you don't give in, don't give up. If it's something you love, just pursue it and learn everything you can about it, right?
When I was at a point in my life years ago where I'd done magic and I got bored with it. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I've been working, you know, in kind of an interesting field, but I was bored of it and I did not know what I wanted to do next.
Right.
And I remember staring up at my ceiling fan, like in a movie, looking at the fan going like, what do I want? What am I? What do I want to do with my life? And I had to break it down to figure out precisely what motivated me. And I realized that I liked being creative and I liked traction. I liked my creativity to have an audience or to do things in the world. And I said, okay, let me start from there. Let me work from there and let me pick a goal. I will not know what the best goal was, but let me pick a goal. And I went and I made like a film, like I made an indie film for like 99. And I made an action movie for like $99. And I got it into film festivals, that was me proving to myself that I could do something really stupid, but took a lot of hard, like pick a stupid challenge, but accomplish it. And so making a feature film for $100 and getting into film festivals was cool because I realized I had to get up at 6 a.m. I had to push myself out of my flaky trajectory, which I was on. I was a guy that did not get things done and do a thing. After I did that, I'm like, okay, this is a lot of work. I don't think I want to be a director right now. What do I want to do? And I'm like, well, pick something else. And I picked the goal was like, it's kind of almost out of the hat, like do magic on TV. Like just do that until something else comes along. And I said, okay, if I pick this, then I've got to work my butt off every single day. You know, it's a priority when it's the first thing you do in the morning. Okay. When it's the first thing you do in the morning, other than brush your teeth, it's a priority. If you do it before, then you know it really is. So I said, when I wake up in the morning, it's got to be the first thing I do. And that's when I made the decision, okay, how do I do this smart? How do I do this strategically? One of the things I did was I found out I could get office space in Orlando, Florida at Universal Studios, dirt cheap. I said, if I have an office on the lot at Universal Studios, even if it's Orlando, then people will take me a little bit more seriously. I didn't need to do it, but it helped. From there, when I started pitching, you know, having to fly back and forth between Florida and LA at the time, I would go get on an airplane flight in like the 9 a.m. flight in Fort Lauderdale, fly to LA, which was a 5-hour flight minus there. As I get into LA, like, you know, 11 a.m., get a rental car, go do a couple meetings with different producers or production companies or networks, have, you know, dinner with my producing partner, then get back onto a red-eye flight and fly back so I could save money and not having to pay for a hotel room, fly back to Florida, get into the airport at like 5:30 in the morning and tired, dead tired. And I'd ask myself this, how badly do you want it? I'm like, wasn't so much that goal, but how badly do you want to achieve the thing you set out to do? And I'd ask myself, would I turn around and get on that plane right now if I got a text that said, hey, they got a meeting? Would I do that? And I always told myself, I'll whine, I'll complain, I'll moan about it, but I'll do it. I will absolutely 100% do it. And that was my motivation. I said, you know what? And that was the stubbornness. That's where the stubbornness came through. Like, I'm on a boat going out to where great white sharks are swimming around, waiting to meet you. I'm like, I'm going to do it. Maybe it's not the smartest thing, but you know what? I committed myself.
Meet, greet, and eat you. That's what they're waiting for. That's a real meet and greet. Before we wrap up this incredible conversation, do you have any little stuff, things there, card tricks, anything just to put a smile on their faces while they're enjoying the conversation?
I can teach a trick. How about I teach a trick?
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah.
Let me teach a trick.
That would be. Most people don't get a chance to see that.
Yeah. Let me see if I got all my cards here. Needs. This totally takes no preparation.
Is there a name to this particular trick?
Yes, this is called the totally not made up instantaneous teleportation. We'll see if this works effect. Okay.
And before we do it, can you define? Because sometimes I know I've heard different people say different things. Some people say it's all the same thing. Some people say no, this is definitive, that's definitive, that's definitive. Obviously, or some people also, maybe a novice, lump it all into just magic. Illusion, magician, and magic, tricks. How do you separate them, or are they all under the same umbrella as the expert you are?
In magic, you know, illusion tended to be the things, the big things when involving the floating people or large objects. That was often what illusion was called. But tricks, like magicians often like, oh, a trick to means what I'm doing. I'm like, get over yourself. You know, it doesn't, I don't have too much take on what really makes the biggest difference, you know? So to me, it's like, whatever you like, you know?
So you're going to do magic right now or a trick?
I'm going to pour a miracle right now.
A magic trick.
A miracle, okay.
A miracle.
I'm going to pan down here. I'm going to try to get down here and try not to reveal the fact that I'm doing this interview in my shorts. I'm going to do the very, very simple version of this, which is actually, Jim, we have two halves. Which half do we want to use?
We'll use the one in your left hand.
This would be my left hand. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. This is going to be the teleportation stack. Hold on a second. This is not me trying to do anything magic-y. This is me trying to figure out how to improvise here. I have a lot of Rubik's Cubes here, so I'm going to build a stack here. Okay. Can you see? Oops. All right, hold on. He's wearing shorts, everybody. It's a lie.
And, and I saw the Rubik's Cubes. He's not lying. The Rubik's Cubes are really there.
Let me put this up even higher here. Totally impromptu, everybody.
Ad hoc on the spot. Right?
Yeah, I'm just trying to make a little magic stand. All right, there we go. There we go. Okay, so I split, and again, we split this up, and you said
left.
You wanted to use the
left. Yeah, your left.
This will be the teleportation stack here. Oh, please don't fall. Teleportation stack. So this is just we'll take two cards from here, and we're going to put them into Or so. Okay. Jim, I need you to say a magic word.
Any word at all?
Yep.
Abracadabra.
Except that word. That's the word.
That is this. Shazam.
Shazam. Boom. Just like this. From the teleportation stack. Remember where the cards started? Here. And they're back. And the cards fall over on cue.
That's wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did we catch that? Did we see that? Do we want to do the teaching segment now?
Yes.
So this is the worst trick ever to do, by the way, on Skype like I'm doing now. I'm realizing this now. Okay. So we'll try this. I'll show you again. So the idea here is that the you use 2 cards. Again, we had our 8 and 9, which go into the middle of the deck. Ooh, just like that. Oops. There we go. And back. Okay.
Yeah.
You ready for the secret now? Again, this is a teaching trick. This is something you can. Okay?
Everybody's saying cool, amazing. They're loving it.
Incredible. How do we start a cult? This is incredible. The Rubik's cubes. You're totally your thighs are a little bit too pasty. Go outside. So this is what this is. This is an old trick. This is a classic trick, but this is a great one. It takes advantage of the fact that we don't pay attention to a lot of things at once. So if I show you the 8 and 9 right there, it looks a lot like this 8 and 9. 8 of spades and the 9 of clubs, and the 9 of spades and the 8 of clubs. You follow?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. So what I do is I take this 8 9, this 8 of 9, and I put them on top of the stack. Right now, I have. There's more involved ways to do this, but if you're in an audience with people or whatever, you can say, to give them free choice, say, okay, which stack do we want to use? This stack is the bottom stack. And they say, oh, this stack, right? That's the teleportation stack. You put that on the table. If they say, yes, we want to use this stack, like, great, we'll use this stack, but we're going to teleport to here. It doesn't matter. It's just a lie to give them the idea there's a choice. But either way, but if you don't even want to do that part, you can just take out the cards. And if you want to, if you're good at sort of playing around and making it look like you're shuffling the cards, but keeping those 4 cards on top, you're set. Okay, because what you do is you then say, oh, let's just take 2 cards, and you look like, oh, the 8 and 9. Don't say what what the suits are. Just say you can miscall them. If you can go, if you're clever, you go, oh, the 8 of clubs and the 9 of spades, which I miscalled them, and then I can go put them in the middle like so, close it up, snap my fingers, and go, oh, look, there's our 9 of spades and our 8 of clubs back on top.
Very cool.
Everybody got it? Cool.
Yeah,
Trust me, it kills. It kills.
War, that's cool. Yeah, all these great comments coming in here. That's awesome. And Merlin, I guess, is asking the difference between magic and illusions. Which was that?
No, pen. Difference between magic and illusion is magic is sort of a field, and illusion to a magician might be a category of that, and so illusion might be a stage trick or whatever. So,
so like levitating, things of that nature would be more illusions, and
exactly.
Playing with the eye. Did I really see that? That type of thing. Yeah.
Sorry.
Now you must. I would imagine with the.
It's fun to do that. It's just fun to do that.
I would imagine that your family over the years must have wanted you to always entertain at birthday parties and call Andrew. Andrew will keep the kids happy and all that type of stuff.
Yeah, there would be a bit of that. But like I had an uncle who's an artist. He would show up and he'd be like, "Here's $5. Don't show him any magic tricks." Because you get sick of it. Because like if you have a magician in the family, they're going to show you the same thing over and over and over again.
There, some of them are saying, "Oh, I wish I could remember what you just did," and Valerie still doesn't get it.
Take the black 8s and the black 9s, put them on top. Okay, and so we have the idea is you're confusing people. They're confusing the 8 of spades and the 9 of clubs for the 9 of spades and the 8 of clubs. So again, you take these are the 4 cards you want on top. Okay. So the idea is you put these on top and you keep this ready on a deck of cards. You just pretend you can be playing to the cards like, oh, I'll show you this. This is just a curious thing. Like I find that like if I take 2 cards and I lose them in the middle, they keep coming back on top, right? I've fooled people for like 20 minutes straight where they never noticed that those are different eights and different, different than the ones in the middle. Because that's what we've done is we've just, confused you to think that it was those two original ones. I'm a much better magic explainer than this on my DVDs. Let me explain right now. So again, put these cards on top. And you take just take an 8 and a 9, make sure they're a different suit. And you just sort of casually, oh, the 8 and 9 of blah, 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 put them in the middle. And it looks like they teleported to the top with a little bit more showmanship, a little more flourish, if you will.
There's so many different elements too, as far as like your facial reactions too, and the way that you sort of finesse the cards and the movement of the hands. Yeah, that has a lot to do with the buildup of it as well, right? If you were just doing it generically and like slamming the cards or just whatever, there's so much more into the finesse. Right?
Yeah. Did you see one? Did you see one card?
I did.
Was it red?
Yes. Was
it the Jack of Diamonds?
Yes, it was.
All right, cool. Yeah, you play with things, and after a while, you get so used to like handling them. The way the objects sort of flow in your hand. That's a split, so I can look through there. You get so used to it over years of just playing with stuff, and it's sometimes like I haven't touched a deck of cards in like weeks, maybe a month or so, but you just pick them up in your hand remembers. But the really great magicians, like the really good ones, they're nonstop. You'll hear that all the time. You go to a movie with like some real like guys are really into card tricks, and you'll hear.
That actually sounds like somebody's pants splitting.
Yeah. What do you think of my jeans? Oh, geez, It's like.
Jen is very inspired, and she said, I have to do this for my students. So, if people want like DVDs and to learn about it, your website, where do they go? Amazon? Where can they go to get? Yeah.
My buddy Brian Brushwood has been doing an amazing series for years called Scam School.
What a cool
YouTube.
name, huh? Brian Brushwood. That's a cool name.
Yeah, he's got a cool name. It's all right. Whatever. Good to Brian. We have this we do a podcast. We have this sort of joke rivalry, and he just got over COVID.
Did he really?
Yeah. And Brian, he's talked about it on his podcast and stuff. And Brian's like, I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. I'm like, well, thank you, Brian. I appreciate that. But if you go to Scam School on YouTube, go youtube.com Scam School. Brian's a wonderful explainer, tons of magic. Go deep into the archives, like years ago, and you'll find a lot of classic stuff, whatever. And I'm in a couple of them teaching stuff. So I'd say it's free. It's a great resource. Tell him Andrew sent you. I would say that's just a great place to go look for stuff.
Now, is there two sides of the fence on that? Is there a mix as far as some of the magicians, entertainers, illusionists not wanting to necessarily reveal how things are done, and then the other way of thinking is let's reveal? Because I remember when that started happening a little bit, there was a little bit of a, hey, wait, hey, shh, don't, come on, you're sort of wrecking it or ruining. What's your thought on all that?
Well, and everybody's going to come to a different opinion, and I don't want to define somebody else's opinion and have them feel like I didn't express it pretty well. But like, I look at it like there is going out to find, like, if you want to learn magic, you are saying, I want to learn how a magic trick works, and I want to perform this. You need to go do a thing. It used to be maybe you went to a library or you walked into a magic shop and they would sell a magic trick to anybody at $20. And people, I ought to be like, oh, that's the way it should have been. Like, right. I remember being a kid and not having money to buy magic tricks, you know, like, and I remember the rich kid that had everything. Like, were they more entitled to know these secrets than I was? Like, you know, and I think that sometimes we're protecting the wrong thing. I think that putting, you know, very few magicians object to magic books being available in libraries. I think that what you want is you want to keep the casual person from being unintentionally exposed or finding something out. Right. The shows, like TV shows that would do secrets of magic, that would reveal stuff. They were often like, I had several things that I'd created for magicians that were revealed in there where it wasn't like they used to say, oh, these things have been around, it's time for new magic. I'm like, that trick's 3 years old. Like,
right, they're still
who are
doing
you helping? Yeah, and like, who are you helping by doing this? So I think that for me, it's more like if somebody has an interest in learning to it, making it easy and accessible for them, I think is a value if they want to learn it. There's a difference. There are some YouTube channels that just expose stuff. I'm like, well, who are you helping? Like, that's not going to make anybody appreciate magic more. And they're not learning to do a thing. And I think that, my opinion, it devalues it, but there might be another take on it. Versus like what I did with my DVDs or what Brian does with his YouTube channel is, it's a 20-minute video to teach you a thing. It's not, this is how it works. Are you happy you know now? Now move on.
Right.
It's, I'm going to teach you. You're going to learn how to perform this, and you're going to learn how to bring enjoyment to other people. Because in theory, if I teach you a magic, you're going to go into your house or your friends or your workplace, and you're going to bring enjoyment to other people. You know, some secrets, I think some people work a long time on creating secrets that I think should be, you know, protected, in the sense that it's not, maybe it's not mine to give away a thing that somebody, you know, somebody created a trick yesterday. It's not mine to go tell people like, oh, this is how it works. Some things have been around us for so long, you know, for somebody to say it's not yours, it's like, it ain't nobody's. Like, you know, I think that it's more, if somebody's willing to put the effort in to learn, I think that I think that's fine. You know, I respect that.
Absolutely. It's the same thing with jokes. I mean, how many times did people accuse Milton Berle of stealing everybody's jokes? It's the same kind of thing. But he actually did.
He actively had people like writing. And I would say the difference is there is like, if you're taking somebody out of somebody's working bit, like Milton Berle would have, like, the story is like he would have people watch other comedians and take their stuff. And that's hard. That's a different thing, because if you're an up and coming comedian and you've worked really hard on your act, and it's your act, something you created, and Milton Berle goes and does this, and the accusation is, maybe it's not, that Milton Berle goes and does that the night before on his show, you don't have an act the next day because everybody's going to call you a thief.
Right. Yeah.
So that, and I've seen people who are outright like will take other people's acts entirely, and that to me is, but to take a thing that's been around for 30 or been 100 years old and to say, let me show you this, to me that's different than like, and that's one of the problems we have. Like, there are people brought up America's Got Talent. On some of the versions in other countries, like, people will go outright and steal acts out of people who are working today, and they can't go perform there.
Right, exactly. And those shows too, how do you feel about all the shows and competitions and things of that nature? Do you enjoy those, watching those? Some, amazing acts?
One, no. Two, I am very later. Some are great. Like Penn&Teller did a series called Fool Us, which was wonderful.
Yes, absolutely. That was great.
That was perfect. The problem with America's Got Talent is that they bring people on and they know in advance who's going to be the joke act, who they're going to make out to be the failure or this or whatever. And I've seen great entertainers go on there and like, oh, it's going to be great, whatever, and get skewered and lose to somebody who is doing borrowed material or unoriginal stuff, whatever, because they were 20 years younger and better looking and are hit a demographic and stuff. And I think, to me, that's the part where magicians go, think I'm like, no, don't do it. Like, don't. Like, because the amount of, I've seen people like, get into credit card debt because they made it to the further on rounds. They're trying to buy illusions and stuff to go compete with it. I'm like, if you can figure out a way to game it, but if you look at every magician who's sort of won at it, it's hard. And there are people who've done very well by it, but I don't think it's the optimum way to do it. And I've seen them just, I think I've watched some of my heroes go on there and get kind of destroyed, humiliated.
Yeah. And then sometimes they even want to give up maybe, or give in, especially if it's somebody who's really banking on this being their big thing or something, or getting the love of the audience, the love of maybe the judges. And
I've watched people, there's somebody in the community who went on there, and it's not the fault of the show at all, but later on took their life because they thought this was going to be the thing where it was going to go, and it's not, again, not the fault of AGT. You go do on the show, you understand it's your choice, but like I think for a lot of people it's not the best way. I think if you're a singer it's great, but for magic it's hard, because magic comes with, like, if you're doing illusions there's a cost to it.
Right.
I get frantic calls from magicians like, oh, I just got into the second round, third round, I need something, and you do your best material to get past the auditions in the first couple rounds. Most magicians, they don't have 4 or 5 amazing pieces, and they have to get better. And so, and I just watched people do really well there. I'm like, that's a very derivative act of somebody else's, and there's no penalty for that.
Exactly. I think the number one thing that you could probably help everybody out with that's watching right now and maybe down the line is What is your secret for making credit card debt disappear?
Yeah,
If you knew that.
well, like, yeah, I mean,
Other than writing that check every month.
yeah, I mean, that's the funny thing. Like, I actually have told, I I've had my ups and downs as an entertainer, but like the first thing I always tell me, the first thing I ever did is I wrote my check for my health care to make sure that if I got sick, I wouldn't be that. And even when I was going through a down period, I would still put 15 or 20 bucks a month into like a retirement account or an index account. Cause I'm like, even when you're broke, plan on saving, because then when you come into, a better period of time, you'll get like, you'll build better habits. And like, I've been very lucky. I'm wearing this shirt's from Amazon. This is Amazon Basics. Like I've been, I've been a very fortunate person, but I'm like, I remember like the first time, I got very fortunate, had money, and I went off and I spent several $100s on a polo shirt just because I bought it on a whim. And afterwards I felt like crap. I'm like, that was a waste. Because I remember going to Old Navy with $90 and trying to make that fit my entire wardrobe. And then to just blow my money on something that I'm like, that I won't care about or matter about, that affected me later on.
Yeah.
And so
you've done it wisely then. Yeah.
I tried to get better about it, but also like, every success story I've ever read, people have a low point. Every success story has a point at which, people had to bet the farm. And
I take a risk. Right.
Yeah. And I would say particularly now with people who are like, you're going through some difficulty, like, it's not you. Like, even if you're an artist, entertainer, or whatever, like, it's what you do after that. It's how you build from it.
Prepare now. Like, be creating now for when things do sort of return and everything. Right. Maximize.
There was a point when Elon Musk was living at his in-laws' house. When he had already he'd created PayPal, he'd made millions of dollars, but he had leveraged everything into SpaceX and Tesla, and he did not want to give up a single bit of ownership on that because he knew if he lost control of those companies, he wouldn't succeed, and he had to go live at like his in-laws' house. He went from Learjet to all of a sudden borrowing money. Granted, when you're borrowing money from friends to pay mortgages, now granted, his friends made Google, but still to go through that period, and people told like, Elon, don't put your own money on it. Don't do this. It's the worst thing in the world. That's the conventional wisdom, is once you make it, but he did it. And he would rather ask, he'd rather say, no, I'm leveraged like crazy, but can you help me out, than risk than lose it all. So
exactly. Merlin in Canada needs to know before we get ready to wrap, do you carry cards with you all the time? Other than Chase and Citibank and American Express, I think she means.
When you're starting out and you're learning, you do that. I learned a very valuable lesson once, though. And when I was younger, I was like 19 or something like that. And I worked at this, I was like 18. I worked at this magic shop. And I used to carry around in my back pocket, I won't explain yet, but I was walking I just got booked like to go perform on some ship or something like this. And so it was like my last day there, whatever. And we used to do birthday parties there. And I'm walking out of the magic shop carrying something. And this girl who was like the daughter of the parents that like to put this, like the older sister to like the kid whose birthday, whatever, like cute girl. She says to me, says, "Oh, that's a bad habit." And I'm like, "What's that?" She goes, "In your back pocket." And she was like this kind of like, I'm like, "Oh, all right." And I put the thing down and I reach in and I pull out of my pocket, and it was a jumbo coin. And I realized, I'm like, she thought it was tobacco. She thought it was chewing tobacco. So I was really a bad boy and interesting to her for a moment.
Right.
And then I'm like, "Oh, this."
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh," and then I did a trick, and it's cool. And I got her phone number. But I'm like, man, like I was way more interesting as the bad boy than I was as the magician. So,
well, you've been incredibly interesting tonight, my friend, and what a great career in so many different ways and so many different avenues. And you're still creating, and you're still doing. When you write the novels, what's the hardest thing for you to do? To put the first few lines down on paper, or to know when to wrap it and put the period on the last sentence?
I would say I'm very big into structure. So once I fixate on what I want to write, that's not too problematic. The hard part is the choice, is to say, do I do this story? Do I do that story? Do that story? And that is where I spend the greatest amount of time, is trying to figure out which story to tell.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you sometimes start one, pause it because another one came and you're now into the second one, and then you go back to the other one?
I try to avoid that, because the dangerous part is a lot of writers they say, oh, you know, I've started several books. I have a lot of these. And I'm like, you got to finish one. Like, I don't know what's the right one. Like, well, if you don't finish, all you've taught your brain to do is how to never finish a thing.
Right.
It's better to learn how to finish a thing instead of worrying about a great thing.
And that requires sometimes focus and really being, you know, not stopping and being distracted. Are you easily distracted?
I'm sorry, I was looking at my Twitter feed. What was that? I've learned.
I bet it's blowing up tonight.
I've learned hyper focus. So like I can be. I've got like, I can't tell you how many Rubik's Cubes and stuff are on here, but I've learned the skill of when I need to focus something on intently, I shut everything out, probably to a fault. I learned that. I also believe in like being able to focus on, I call it like micro focus, or the idea of like spend 8 minutes on this intently and not do anything else, then go do the other thing and then come back into it.
Yeah.
But I don't do Facebook. Like I have like I have an account, but I don't do anything on there. When I'm not on Twitter, my Twitter is shut down. Like I don't have an open Twitter client.
So you can walk away from those things. Yeah.
Yeah. Like my phone it's on mute, and I've got a bunch of calls and stuff on here, but I'm like, I'm going to talk to Jim. So the phone is going to be off and to the side. When I write, I use noise canceling headphones, and when I'm going to give 100% time to something, I do that. And often we don't have that luxury. So then we have to learn how to get into something really fast, get what we need to do, then get out.
Yeah.
And the only way is 100% is to just like, I don't have an instant message thing on my computer here. There is no notifications. So when I'm in Andrew world, I'm in Andrew world.
Do you ever feel disconnected, or no, you feel more connected by not being so connected to all those other distractions and things?
I miss out on opportunities. And there was a woman who I loved dearly. She was a fan of my books and promoted them and talked to people endlessly. And I just loved her dearly. She had she passed away, and I didn't find out about it till a while after, because I wasn't on Facebook. And that's been painful, is to have things happen where I missed out because of that. But, the fact that I was writing, she probably would have loved, and so it's that trade-off. Right. So I know I miss out on certain things, but my ability to focus, I have been so lucky by opportunities that fall into my lap, because by focusing, things I did became very visible. Yeah. But by not being present in my social media, maybe I missed out on, there was some huge opportunity I could have had, but oh well.
You're lucky. You're not getting involved in any of the political rants and the yelling and arguing and unfriending and all that other nonsense that goes on in there. That's like, oh my God.
If anybody follows my Twitter, you're not going to hear my political takes. You're not going to hear this, because like, we all have more interesting things to talk about than, I don't want to divide. I mean, I might have, sometimes I'll say my strong opinion, not on a political thing or whatever. It might be a social issue or something, but it's never a take that people are going to disagree with me. But I might point out like, hey, this company or somebody did something, I think this is maybe kind of uncool. Yeah. I rarely say that even, but.
Right. When you look at all of this, you look at all these incredible things that you've been involved in, do you pinch yourself? I mean, like I said, you're working now virtual reality, artificial intelligence. That's really cool too. But some amazing things have come your way, and you've really seized them. What do you consider the continued blessings in your life and joys that still drive you, still push you to do the incredible things that you do? I mean, working in virtual reality and artificial intelligence is work that's really going to benefit us in so many different ways. And some of the things that you've done too over the years, whether it's the novels, the magic, the illusion, creating things, inventing things, because you're an inventor, bring a lot of joy to people as well. Take them away from the chaos of life, the stress, the fear, the unhappiness of life. You've brought pleasure to people by getting them to think, getting them to want to possibly try to do these things themselves, giving them confidence while you're building confidence and overcoming any insecurity that you may have in yourself, building your own resilience and confidence, you're helping them do it as well. So all of these things and then some is very inspiring to other people and has brought, you know, years worth of great joy and pleasure to others, which is not only a great responsibility, but I'm sure a true blessing for you, isn't it, Andrew?
Oh yeah, I've been the recipient of a lot of kindness and a lot of things, people thinking of me and whatnot. I never would have gotten my A&E show if you know, but one, that my producing partner Mary Jarris didn't believe in me, if my friends Joke and Biagio didn't call me up and say, hey, how about this? I never would have. My books, you know, my buddy Justin Robert Young is the guy that read my first books and would give me his opinion. If I had been lucky enough to meet him, because I taught a class, an after-school class on critical thinking, and he was a student there years ago. And I'm like, this kid's sharp. If I didn't, you know, I didn't have him as my best friend. Yeah. I've been so lucky by that. I remember there was a moment when we were shooting the Shark Week special, and I'm in the Caribbean, and we're doing a night shoot where we wanted to see this tiger shark feed. And they had this big barrel of chum, which was frozen fish that had been kept on board this boat for like a day, and it leaked, and the people on the deck below got that on them. Sorry. And I'm working with this amazing dive team, like Stewart Cove divers. Like these people working on James Cameron's Avatar films right now. Amazing people who've actually had, you know, some of these people I'm working with, some of the spotters have had their own TV specials and stuff. This amazing team. My guy who's the supervising producer. This is, you know, Donald Schultz, this incredible guy who's done his own TV work. I'm around these amazing people who know way more than I do. I'm at the bottom of the ocean, next to Dr. Hills Hammerschlag, who's this, you know, incredible shark scientist. There's all these lights and cameras set up and all this lit up like amazing, and we're about to drop this big bucket of chum in there where all the reef sharks, all of the sand sharks and the tiger and all these other fish from everywhere are going to come feed. It drops in there, and there's a cyclone of fish, and I'm in this maelstrom watching this with this beautiful lighting, and I'm pinching myself. I'm like, nobody gets to see this like this. How lucky are you to be here? And you know, and it's because, you know, I had a producer that believed in me. I had friends that supported me. I had people that fell for my BS. You just
there's always that.
Yeah, and I, you know, yeah, I try to pay it forward, but a tiny fraction. I've just been, yeah, you get lucky, but also like. The other side of it was I went from being a shy person sitting in my little townhouse in Florida, having dreams, but all I ever did was like write letters like, oh, I'd like to do this. And nobody ever said anything. And I had to one day make a decision to go knock on doors, to go show up at a local TV station, a little public television station, and say, hey, I have ideas. Just show up in Orlando, to show up in LA. Like I had an agent once say, if you're ever in LA, let me know. I'm like, oh yeah, I have a meeting up. I didn't have a meeting. I flew out there just to talk to her. And that's how I got my first agent. I realized like, I've been lucky because I've had people that have been there for me, but also you have to show up. You have to be there.
Right, exactly. And deliver, right, and learn from mistakes and always be willing to take on new things. And you've been able to do that. You seem to have a lot of interests, and you see something else over there, you want to learn how to do that, and then you want to learn how to do that, which I think is really, really cool, Andrew. This was fascinating, really.
Can I just answer to Merlin? You brought up the point, like COVID hasn't helped, and you're right. It has actually disrupted stuff. But there are people out there who are doing things who've said, okay, this is a chaotic situation. Yeah. There needs to be somebody can figure out a signal or order or create something. So I know entrepreneurs right now who are creating businesses entirely because this has created a new opportunity where you don't have to go to Silicon Valley to go pitch a VC. You don't have to show up in LA. And it is, I would rather be the way it was before, but there are people, I know two people who've done startups during the pandemic that have raised, you know, tons of money for ideas.
I've worked in this industry for a long time, in, you know, television, radio, and multimedia. And 22 weeks ago, we brought in the television lights, built this home studio here, and launched this entertainment lifestyle talk show series that we do every single night since May, nonstop. To inspire people, to connect with people, to have great guests like you on, and bring back the lost art of conversation and entertainment. And, you know, it's pulling from my experience in the industry, but also it's something that I've created that is not necessarily with a network or with the station or with where it's sort of conforming into those various formats and things of that nature. It's whatever I've created it to be, whatever we do, whatever the conversation is, whatever the, you know, the entertainment or the theme is, which is kind of cool. So I understand that sort of taking this moment and creating this and creating things because people have asked me for years to do something like this, but I was always so busy in radio studios, television studios, on location, whatever, and still do all that work, but said, you know what, it's time to open up something like this and let's see where it lands. And fortunately, we got these beautiful people who watch around the world, but this was the time to do it. Because like you said earlier, multiple times in this conversation, do it, don't wait, do it. And you've said that multiple times, and it seems like you've done that throughout.
When you look at, like, we're having a conversation with wonderful people, like, Merlin asking great questions and people participating, and we see the little Facebook marks, the YouTube, and they're coming from over. And that's the thing that is that, the next thing that comes for you that might be, the next time you're in a studio shooting something, the thing you're going to think about, this is great, but it was really cool being part of a community, and right. We're, obviously the division is apparent too, but the fact that there are all these amazing communities that are popping up, it's wonderful.
Right. Absolutely.
Like I'm here because of Valerie, who is wonderful. And Valerie, I've met her through Twitter and we've never met in person, but like, she's like a person I know. And she's like, do you want to do this show? Sounds great. And it was just this, like, so many opportunities come out like this, even in horrible situations.
That's why I say we all got to stick together. We all got to, collaborate, work together, create, support one another however we can, and lift each other up. Absolutely. I'm right there. And yeah, Valerie is absolutely wonderful. And Andrew, this really was awesome. And really appreciate, all the time and the great conversation and the wit and wisdom as well. It was cool looking back at some of the earlier videos and some of the magic, talking about the phenomenal novels that you pen and all the other stuff that you're doing. I just wanted to, before I forget, the experience with Penn&Teller, how did that happen? And it must be great, having opportunities to work with them as well.
So when I was a kid, I was a big fan of Penn&Teller. My dad loved Penn&Teller. My dad would wake me up if they were going to be on, like, Letterman. Wake up, Penn&Teller, and I got to go watch them on, Letterman. I loved watching them. They, my dad and my family were friends with James Randi, the amazing Randy, who was really good friends with Penn&Teller. And when I was in high school, Penn&Teller came to my town to go do a show. And I asked Randy for a favor. So I asked if they would record like a don't do drugs PSA for my buddy and I, and they said yes. And so we got to record Penn&Teller, the back of the state, the back of the theater, like, hey, it's Penn&Teller, we don't do drugs, blah, 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 which was awesome. Who does that? And so when I was in high school, they did that. And then a few years later, I had been talking to them because they had a run where they were doing they had like a TV special and some TV appearances and stuff. And they were looking to have somebody come on board and help them out and do some stuff creatively with them. So I went out to Vegas and got to spend a couple months working on some different magic and stuff and see how they worked. And, they're amazing. Now, these guys, how hard they worked, how smart they were about what they did. And it was just, and that's part of the lesson in my life. I don't know if you pick up the theme, was I wanted to be David Copperfield. Then I saw how hard he worked. Then I didn't want to be David Copperfield. I wanted to be like Penn&Teller. Then I saw how hard they worked. Then I didn't want to be Penn&Teller. And so a lot of quitting, a lot of giving up on my dreams when I realized how hard it is.
So you like the fun of it. You like the actual, the fun part of it.
I like work, but I like novelty. I like to be doing a new thing and sort of a new challenge. And so that for me is sort of I like a book, then I can move on to another book. I like a thing. And so, but I then again, some of the best things the two best outcomes that have ever happened in my life were, one, staying with a thing, and two, going from being solo to working with people. Yes,
right. Exactly. They like how honest you are. We're the real deal. Some of them have said,
am I?
The way the eyes pop out. Some have said that you're hilarious too. I told you there is a comedic comedic element there. Sherry says, thank you for sharing everything with us tonight in Lovity Hall. Andrew, you're definitely a Lovity now. You're one of the Lovities. Please come back soon. Jennifer says, exactly. Maryland and Kansas, Wichita, been an awesome evening. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jim and Andrew. Andrew, this is so fantastic. So glad you are a guest. Jen watching in Toronto, loving it as well. Really cool stuff. Everybody loving, what's going on here. So you will have to come back. The door's always open, my friend. I'm glad that we connected here. Christine says, Andrew, thanks for so many stories with such detail. Your conversation has been entertaining, informational, inspirational, fun, magical guest. You're a Lovity now. Juanita in South Africa, yes, and humble. There is a humble quality, which is really cool. And I think I've always been that way too. That's why I relate to your way. It was wonderful.
I think I'm more humble than you, to be honest, Jim. I think I'm way more humble than you are, to be honest.
And stay
I'm the
that
most
way.
humble person I've ever met.
You're the one. A great interview as well. Danilo and she's in Missouri. Danilo in San Diego. It was wonderful having you on the show. Great interview. Speaking of that, before we head out, and thank you to Danilo in San Diego. Good night to you as well. Your family, in terms of like when some of this notoriety and these cool things have been happening, Novelists and, magician, television show, all of that, the response from the family, sort of like hometown kid makes good. They must be very supportive and really, very happy about your successes as well, right?
Oh yeah, they've been great, but also my dad, and I could go into just the whole thing about my dad has a career as a federal agent. My dad went after organized crime, was brought down. I'm not going to name the certain heads of state. The reason I used another name is because my dad's name showed up on a hit list once and all this. My dad had this amazing career in law. I was super cop, been decorated, whatever. My brother does incredible stuff. My brother's in the FBI and all this. It's they do real stuff. And I was always doing make-believe stuff, but they were always super supportive, which is great. But it's people what's it like? I'm like, well, I've never saved a life, I've never arrested, a dictator, I've never done that, my dad and my brother can say things like that. So put things in proportion,
Did you ever think of going into any of that line of work or no, it wasn't?
For a hot minute, but then my mom was like, no, one son's enough. And also I would, and I wouldn't be I would be horrible. I have a tremendous amount of respect for law enforcement and anybody in that field who's out there doing that, because, and I know it's just for that to be a controversial statement is absolutely crazy. And I understand that everything, there are things that can be improved across the board and stuff, but what people go through, what they do. And one of the things I advise people to, because I talk about law enforcement, is get involved in community policing. If you have an organization or locally that lets you do this, like volunteer programs, volunteer sheriff's departments, stuff like this, learn this. There are police review boards and stuff, and you appreciate how hard the job is, but also it's made better by a better community. And, I think that's the other side of it, is we can, growing up in a family around that and seeing how hard of a job it is.
Yeah. Same thing like you say with Copperfield.
Yeah.
There's a theme. There's a theme there. Well, this was awesome, my friend. Is your Twitter blowing up?
I don't know. I haven't checked. But hey, anybody from here who follows me on Twitter, just tell me, say hashtag, use Lovity, whatever you want to say. Jim Master sent me, and I'll follow you back. Just let me know that it's, we can have wonderful conversames about Jim Masters behind his back.
And is there
what do you think of the hat today?
This whole thing. What the hell was I talking about now? So do you have a website? Is there an andrewmayne.com or anything universal? Yes.
It is at www.andrewmayne.com. And M-A-Y-N-E. So.
Perfect. Good stuff, Andrew. This was great. I really appreciate the amount of time and conversation. Thank you, Jim, for having Andrew on the show tonight. You seriously are the best. It's a pleasure to watch you interview your guests. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I try to make everybody feel warm and comfortable and welcome here.
You're great at it.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. My father has always said, anytime anybody says anything nice, ask them to put it in writing and address it in management. Oh, geez, Bernadette already knows you've got a website. They've been checking you out during this whole thing. They've been checking you out. you're turning red. And that's not magic. My friend, thanks for coming on. Really, this was a pleasure having you on and really opening up about your life and all the cool things that have happened and continue to happen. We wish you nothing but the best of everything, continued success. You're welcome back anytime, and I hope you enjoyed your time with me as much as I have.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jim. I appreciate this. Thank you, everybody. Nice to meet you all.
My pleasure, my pleasure. What does Soraya say here? I love your smile, Andrew. Good one to wrap on. My friend, you take care. You be well. And hopefully, whether you're on the East Coast or I'm doing a TV shoot or something out West, we'll get together. It'll be awesome. Love to do that. Yeah.
Awesome.
You take care and have a good night, all right? Bye-bye now. He's really going away. This isn't magic. He's really, he's actually going to go. Thanks, Andrew. Bye-bye now. Bye. Awesome. And Bernadette says, Andrew, stay safe, stay well. See you on Twitter. Going to follow on Twitter. And again, don't forget to go to this website too, andrewmayne.com. Thank you. Jennifer says thank you as well. Everybody coming in. Bye for now. That's right. Not really goodbye, but more like see you later, right? Again, if you joined us late, some really incredible things that we went over as far as his career and some really awesome things. We went sort of down memory lane a little bit as well. And if you saw him on A&E and now you learned a little bit more about him, or maybe you've read his books, maybe you saw the Shark Week special as well, which was absolutely awesome. He's a really cool guy and very humble and loves what he does. And he's always taking on new things. And I think that's what's really cool about what he's all about. He's trying to figure things out. He's fascinated by life. And now he's in the world of virtual reality. And that is really cool too, an artificial intelligence. And I think, you know, a lot of these things that he's done have really been leading up to being involved in all of that. The understanding of things and trying to figure them out and, you know, just really try to break things down and make it relatable for all of us too. Kind of like Carl Sagan, we talked a little bit about Sagan, who I thought was brilliant, and just his mannerisms and his personality and articulation and just the way he really presented things. He took things that could be very, you know, detailed and broke them down in ways so that billions and billions of people would relate. Jennifer saying, have a good night from Colorado. Good to see you in Colorado as well. We Loveities are so grateful. My pleasure, Merlin. Great questions too tonight, Merlin. So we had some magic in there, some entertainment, some levity, good, you know, inspirational topics as well. Good stuff. Marilyn, good night to you as well. Thanks, gang. This was really awesome, really fantastic. I do want to tell you, we have an amazing guest tomorrow. Oh boy, yes, yes, yes. Get ready for some great music and entertainment. Natalie Douglas is here tomorrow. Yes, the award-winning performer, entertainer, singer. And we're so excited to have her here on the show. Natalie Douglas is my guest live tomorrow. She's a brilliant singer and entertainer, actress, and more. She's all excited to be here. She's our special guest on the Jim Masters Show live tomorrow night. That is Tuesday. Natalie Douglas is here. Don't miss it. 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, live on the Jim Masters Show. We're so excited. Then on Wednesday, another brilliant performer, singer, and entertainer, Christine Lavin, is here on Wednesday. Very much looking forward to having her on the show. She is amazing. She is outstanding. She's very excited to be here. She's got a wonderful sense of humor. And she's a brilliant entertainer. Lots of music and levity coming on Wednesday night. Then more illusion with award-winning illusionist and more. John Ways is here. Isn't that a cool picture? Look closely at it. You see his fingers, right? But do you see a face? We used this particular photo because I just thought it was really, really cool. He's a brilliant illusionist and much, much more. And he's going to be our very special guest on Thursday night, this Thursday. And he's going to do some special things that are going to involve all of us. So make sure you tune in this Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, because he's going to involve me and all the viewers, the power of suggestion, and lots more coming up on Thursday night. Here's another cool shot of him, actually. Isn't that a cool shot? Just one of many. This is John Ways. He's all excited. And he's going to be here. He's been looking forward, actually, he said, to this appearance on our show for a long time, and I have been as well. And he and Andrew have communicated as well, which makes total sense. I think that's awesome, too. So Thursday night, he's waiting for you. See, John has that look. He's waiting for you to join us on Thursday night. Don't make him sad. Make sure you're here. It's going to be awesome. That's Thursday night. Then on Friday, another amazing singer and actress, Alison England, is going to be here on Friday night. She is extraordinary. She's all excited. Phenomenal entertainment, great music, and lots more with singer and actress, a recording artist, Alison England. A full night after night of incredible entertainment. Again, a lot of hard work putting all of these shows together, but really, you know, love doing it for all of you guys because it's just something that, you know, if you can entertain people and inspire them and just have a good time doing it as well, why not do it? I just, that's why one of the reasons why I'm so glad that I'm not only glad we had this time together, as Carol Burnett has always said, just glad that you guys tune in every night and you seem to really connect with this show, which I think is awesome, and it's quite special as well. So it means a lot. So Alison is going to be here on that particular night of Friday, and she is all excited. We've been chatting for several weeks, actually, in advance of the show. We do with all of the guests to make sure we have, you know, everything all together and ready to go, and dot all the I's and all the T's and all the promotion, all the emails, all the phone calls and everything we do to get everything ready here. Then on Saturday, get ready. It's going to be a powerhouse on Saturday night. We're going to have a lot of fun, a lot of entertainment. The one and only Clea Blackhurst is going to be here. She's an actress, singer, comedian, mermanologist. She is Ethel Merman reinvented. She's a dear friend too. I've known her for a long time. She is extraordinary. Clea Blackhurst here exclusively this Saturday night. She is, again, an actress, a singer, comedian, mermanologist, and lots more. Then on Sunday, I know we're going way ahead here. Every show is a knockout this week, even tonight's with Andrew Mayne. We have something very, very special on Sunday. Sunday, we are going to be on at a special time. We're going to be on earlier on Sunday for a Jim Masters Show matinee edition. And the reason why is we have a very special guest who's going to be live from Sweden. Yes, this is John Magnusson. He is an incredible recording artist and singer and musician with his phenomenal band, indie, and lots more. He is going to be here exclusively live from Sweden this Sunday. Now, it's going to be 1 p.m. Eastern, okay? So it's 1 p.m. Eastern. We're going to be here live on Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern, which is 10 a.m. Pacific, but it's going to be 7 p.m. in Sweden and Norway and Finland. So it'll be a 7 p.m. performance and conversation and music and all kinds of cool stuff for a very special episode live from Sweden this coming Sunday. John Magnusson, he's an incredible recording artist, very popular in Europe and in Sweden. So again, jot it down, and we'll mention it again as we get close. And we have promotions on our Facebook page, and you can see everything coming up on YouTube at Jim Masters TV. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We really would love that. A lot of people have been subscribing to the YouTube channel. We love that as we build that channel. That's where we house all the episodes of our series, 22 weeks of episodes. Also, the Facebook page, Jim Masters TV, Instagram and Twitter, Jim Masters TV, Periscope and Twitch, Jim Masters TV. But click that notification bell on YouTube so you don't miss anything. because in addition to our series, The Jim Master Show Live, we also add in lots of other content and other videos as well, some special other videos. So, recording artist and singer and musician John Magnusson, live from Sweden, with a phenomenal musical episode, 1 p.m. Eastern, that's 1 o'clock Eastern, this Sunday, 10 a.m. Pacific, and it'll be 7 p.m. for the folks that are watching in Europe, in Sweden and Finland and Norway and Scandinavia, and other different times. I think it's 7 for them, but it'll be like 6 p.m. for the Netherlands, and I think it's, unless it's around, maybe it's also 7 p.m. for them too. I think it'll be like 6 p.m. in Ireland and Scotland and England and things of that nature. So 1 p.m. Eastern for Eastern Time, 10 a.m. Pacific, and 7 p.m. for parts of Europe as well. And then you can check the times, you know, based on where you live around the world, because I know we have a global audience. This is a very special episode, afternoon matinee episode with this wonderful Swedish musician, recording artist, singer, and it's going to be really, really cool. So we got a great, and that's just leading us up to Sunday. We have guests all the way until almost, we are booked past Thanksgiving. Amazing, amazing. Early show for you, early show. So if it's, you're in South Africa, so it'll be 1 p.m. Eastern for us here, where we are here. We're on the East Coast of the United States and the Northeastern United States and the New York area between New York and Boston. So it's 7 p.m. It's a 1 p.m. for us, which is 10 a.m. for folks out on the West Coast of the United States. What time is it in South Africa for you? Will that be early morning, early? What, I'm fascinated to know. And of course, I know it'd be, I think it's being early for Australia, maybe still night for Australia. Natalie Douglas will be a fabulous and talented guest tomorrow evening. All week looks great. Thank you. Yeah, working really hard behind the scenes to put all of these shows together. And my professional work is very busy during the day, hosting tons of radio shows in my professional work, and we're working on television projects as well. So things are very, very busy, you know, with the other shows that I host professionally. So we're balancing all of that with this show and still knocking these shows out of the park. It'll be noon in Chicago. That'll be great. So you can have brunch with me and John Magnusson, who'll be live from Sweden. He and I connected, and then we worked it out to have him come on the show. I know him, you know, personally, directly, and we worked it out with my schedule, his schedule, the show's schedule, and we think that'll be a great Sunday sort of matinee earlier episode. So that's going to be our show for Sunday. We'll be at 1 p.m. Eastern live, 10 a.m. Pacific, and again over where he is. We're doing it earlier because he has a young child as well, and we're going to be doing that. Some of our European artists and things of that nature, we're going to shift things around and try to make it a little bit earlier for them. That way there also, not only can our audience enjoy it live, but their fans and their audience can also watch these shows live as well. Everybody likes to watch them in the archives at YouTube, and we love that, and that's awesome. And that, oh, I should let you know also, the Sunday show, Sunday, is going to be exclusively on YouTube, okay? So the show with John Magnusson live from Sweden is going to be this Sunday on YouTube exclusively. It's a YouTube event live from Sweden that we're doing. So make sure that you check out our YouTube channel at Jim Masters TV. Hopefully you subscribe to the channel. It doesn't cost anything. Just hit the red, you know, subscribe. And that way there you can do comments. I know a lot of you love to do the comments during the show. So make sure that you do that so that way there you can see the comments. Again, we'll be on Sunday on YouTube with our very special guest live from Sweden, John Magnusson. All right, so that's YouTube on Sunday. So make sure you get familiar with YouTube and check that out. It's going to be great. And that's because there's going to be music involved and everything. So we want to make sure, you know, Facebook's a little bit trickier with pre-recorded music. What it is with Facebook is some pre-recorded music is tricky on Facebook, not so much with YouTube. So we're going to do it on YouTube, all right? Juanita, same time as your friends in Germany. So what time is that in Germany then, Bernadette? Right now it's 4 where you are. AM or PM? Noon in Chicago, at 1900 in South Africa. Perfect. Kathleen, thank you very much. So again, our show on Sunday is going to be on YouTube at Jim Masters TV. It's going to be a brilliant show, 1 p.m. Eastern. Check it out. We're going to love seeing you guys there. And a lot of you have joined us on YouTube as well, which is awesome. And I think it'll be on Twitch as well, YouTube and Twitch. All right, gang, and that is John Magnuson, live from Sweden. It's going to be awesome. He's excited to be here. So join us tomorrow night. Natalie Douglas is going to be here. Great music and entertainment for you as well. Once again, we thank our very special guest, best-selling novelist, inventor, magician, Andrew Mayne. He was awesome. Also, coming weeks, on November 8th, George Hutton, Irish pop star, lyric tenor, singer-songwriter is going to be here. I know so many of you are very excited about this, and that's going to be really cool. That's going to be on YouTube as well, and that'll be a really cool show, and that's going to be an earlier show as well. Again, to accommodate the fact that it's like, if we did the show at 7 at night here, it would be like midnight for him. So we're going to do it earlier on November 8th, so that way their fans can also see it in Ireland, Scotland, England, live as well. And in coming weeks, Melissa Manchester, the one and only Melissa Manchester, is going to be here as well, and we're going to be announcing that very, very soon. All right, gang, this is your host, Jim Masters, thanking you for your time this time. Till next time, that it's 4 in the morning. Ooh. Make coffee. Make some Java. You will rewatch the show later in the evening. Definitely do that. Definitely do that. You can always watch any of these shows. If you're not available when the show is on, that's fine. There's even more people that seem to watch later, because we are living in that world now where everybody binge watches and they watch things at their own convenience. So if you're not able to watch us live, that's perfectly fine. It's really not all about the live. The only thing that's the advantage with the live is you get to do the comments. You get to be interactive with me and interactive with our guests and any other topics and themes we do. So that's the advantage of being here when we're live, is the interactivity, which I know all of you really love. But, you know, if there's ever conflicts, perfectly fine. I'm a very understanding host. Everything is available for you, and that's why we house everything on YouTube, so you'll never miss anything. So if there's any of the episodes you want to see again, just check it out. Check it out on YouTube as well. 6 hour ahead, yes. So same time in Sweden as it is in Germany, Netherlands. Cool. So everybody watching in Germany and Switzerland and all around. We have an audience that's really building in Europe and Australia and other areas. Fun seeing it live, I know, because we can chat like directly. I can respond to you. George is great. Melissa's fantastic. You'll rewatch the shows. Again, everything's on YouTube there for you, so check it out. YouTube, Jim Masters TV. Give it a subscribe. Click the notification bell so you don't miss anything. And good night to Lin Lin. Yes, Lin Lin. Lin Lin we're going to be bringing in on special occasions. Probably the weekend shows and pop-ups and different things too, because Lin Lin is so big. Lin Lin is sitting on the sofa, smiling. That was fun having Lin Lin debuted as one of our new cast members. 9 p.m. Central Time. Good for you as well. The other characters are here. Gilligan, of course. Well, that's not Gilligan, is it? That's George Burns. He says goodnight. I know you guys love when we show the characters. Jeannie says goodnight. She's sound asleep now. She just turned the lights out in her bottle as I get ready to say goodnight. Gilligan says goodnight to you as well. I know you love Gilligan. Bob Denver, with love from his beautiful wife, Dream of Denver. Aloha, Jim, which we appreciate. Speaking of Switzerland, when we were on that TV shoot in Switzerland, of course, we got Silver, the Silver Lab. He says good night as well. Boy, do I need more hands, huh? I should have been an octopus. There's still time. Oh, Andrew, can you come back? Maybe you can... It'll be illusion. Maybe, yeah, maybe I do have several other arms, you know? Maybe this is all illusion. Maybe I'm not even really here. Maybe you're imagining that I'm standing here talking to you for 3 hours and 10 minutes. Holy cow, I'm looking at the time. This has to be an illusion. 3 hours and 10 minutes. And Jimmy says goodnight to you as well. There you go. And Lin's over there, the big panda that we debuted, which was a phenomenal gift from a dear friend for the birthday. Good stuff. You guys relax. Take care. Love you all. Thanks for being with us. Really cool show tonight. Hope you learned something. Hope you're entertained, inspired. Take care of one another. Love one another. And love yourself. Take care of yourself as much as taking care of the world around you. All right. Relax. Breathe. Hopefully your day is going to be a good one tomorrow. If not, or if you have a rough day, we'll be here for you at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific with the wonderful Natalie Douglas. Good night to you as well. Thank you very much, Christine. Virtual hugs to you as well, Bernadette. I love the your profile photo there. Really cute. And good stuff, everybody. You relax too. Thank you. I know. I always tell everybody to do that, and sometimes I got to remember to do it myself. I'm on the air at 11 a.m. tomorrow hosting the radio show, and then I have another show after that, and then busy time now between this show and my professional work. But hey, man, I love doing this. This is fun. We're doing it for you, doing it for me. We're doing it together. All right, gang, we're going to wrap up. You have a great night, and you take care. You be well. And again, hopefully you got entertained, inspired, informed, and something about this show stood out for you. Thanks for all of the activity, all the great questions, all the phenomenal comments. We have guests coming in from all kinds of sources. Some of them are my celebrity friends. Some of them are people who want to hop on the show. If you have a suggestion for a guest that you think would be great on the Jim Master Show live, we're always open to hearing ideas. Feel free. Send suggestions for a great guest to the inquiry box. You can send an email to jimmasterstv@gmail.com. Again, if you have a suggestion for a great guest on the Jim Masters Show live, send guest inquiries to jimmasterstv@gmail.com, and we'll take a look at all that. We'll go through all that and see if it works out. Thank you for doing that. Many of you are doing that, actually. You've been sending all kinds of different names and people, and that's really cool. And then other people are watching. A lot of people watch the shows first, and then they like the vibe and they like what we're doing, and they say, hey, I want to go on that, or that sounds cool. And then all the guests afterwards, every single guest that comes on the show, we usually communicate right after. And one day I'm going to do a full show, I think, or maybe a part show or something, where I just share with you some of the beautiful things that not only the viewers have said about our show, but that the guests who've been on the show have written to me personally after they've been on the show. Very moving, very touching, and why I do what I do professionally and why I do what I do here every night for all of us. So good stuff. There's the suggestion box. Feel free, and we appreciate that. All right, gang, for the 19th time. I like that word. That's an old school word. Toodles. You too, Jennifer. Thank you, Jim. That's my daughter, as Wilbur and Charlotte's Web. All very cute. Socially distanced and masked. Good. Absolutely. That's what we do. There's no other way. Socially distanced, wash those hands. Masks on. Masks on. That's it. I'm having a piece of cherry pie and ice cream. Yummy. That sounds really good. The smile that you've got on your face in your picture certainly shows that you're very happy. All right, gang. Good night. Crystal Nolan, Connecticut, thanks for being with us as well. We have to pick our viewer of the week. So we're going to have to let this roll a little bit longer, and then we'll pick another viewer of the week. Good night, Jim and everyone. And Lin, did you get the picture of my giant stuffed penguin? LOL. Good night, all lovelies. I haven't checked the emails yet because we were away yesterday with family, and then we've just been very busy today. But I will check, and I will look for the picture of the stuffed penguin. Whew. I think it's time to wrap, isn't it? Stuffed penguin. Stuffed penguin. Okay. Stuffed penguin. This is now going to be in the archives forever, right? Can I edit this out? No, we're live. Actually, we could edit these shows if we wanted to, but what the heck? I like live. Stuffed penguin. I will look for that, and we'll try to show it on one of the upcoming shows, okay? So thanks for sending that. I really appreciate that. Very beautiful of you to take time to do that, Claudia. Good night, everybody. We're going to wrap and wrap and wrap. And good stuff. It was a pleasure. All right. Love you all. Take care. If you missed anything, we did show a good deal of videos of Andrew's magic and so much more. Just check out the replay on YouTube at Jim Masters TV if you missed any of that. I know you might have came in at the point where we were doing conversation, but there was a lot of cool video action earlier in the show as well. Good night, Claudia. That's it. We'll see you tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, live on the Jim Masters Show, live on YouTube, Facebook, Periscope, Twitch. I think I got them all at Jim Masters TV. Good night.